We did order in the room. Brian, things are in order in the room. Okay. Good evening. This is the Landmarks Committee of Community Board 2 Manhattan. We are in a second meeting of the month this evening to hear one application at 497 Hudson Street. I will say a bit more than usual as the opening because we have a great many people whom I believe are first time here. We'd like to welcome Mother Stacy and the representatives of the architectural firm who will make the presentation. A bit about what Landmarks does. Our consideration is the external view of a building, how it sits in the immediate area, the streetscape, the neighborhood, and the district that it's in. It's in the village, the original village designated district. And the site is unusual. It's the super block of St. Luke in the Field Church. And there have been several over the years visits to the committee for various alterations. And this actually was envisioned many years ago as part of a master plan. And it's come to pass now. As far as the testimony goes, anyone is free to speak within the 2-minute limit. The committee, however, can only consider matters that relate to the landmarks aspect along the lines that I've outlined already. The order of the evening is that Mother Stacy will speak, and then the presentation by the architects, and then some remarks by the parishioners of the church that will be, in a sense, an extension of the presentation. That will be followed by the guests' questions and answers. I'm sorry. First the I left myself out. First the committee, and then members of the board who are not on the committee, and then guests, and then members of the public. We're moving the order around a bit unusually because of the nature of the parishioners' testimony. I'll say more about public testimony before that starts. And after the conclusion of the questions, the testimony, we'll have a business session in which anyone is invited to stay and only the committee members may participate. With that, we can begin. Mother Stacy, if you would.
Thank you so much, Chair Spence. But actually, I'm going to ask our wonderful partners at BKSK to begin with a brief introduction before my own remarks, and then we'll move into the architectural presentation. Ms. Nelson.
Thank you. And I would ask my colleague if he can share screen, and if he can't, I can do so. Perhaps he's not able to do so, so I will share my screen. And begin by thanking the members of the committee for hearing our presentation tonight. We will begin our presentation with some brief remarks by the Reverend Carolyn Stacy of the Church of St. Luke in the Fields, who will introduce the project, and then the bulk of the presentation will be made by myself. I'm Julie Nelson. I'm a partner at BKSK, together with my partner, Harry Kendall, as well. So with that, I will hand it off to Mother Stacy, and you can just let me know when you want me to advance the slides, Mother Stacy.
Excuse me, could you arrange the slides so we're not seeing all the peripheral, but
yes, I can.
Make it a bit bigger, maybe.
Yep, I can do that. I apologize. There we go. How is that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Apologies. Mother Stacy?
Thank you so much. So good evening, Chair Spence, Chair De La Rosa, and esteemed members of the committee. Thank you so much for convening tonight's hearing to consider our proposal for the new St. Luke in the Fields Centre. I'm Mother Caroline Stacey. I'm the great privilege of serving as rector of Church of St. Luke in the Fields for 20 years now. If we could move to the first slide, please.
Yes. Sorry, I'm working to advance the slides. Sorry, I was expecting my colleague to advance the slides, and I'm struggling with my tech. Sorry. I'm going to have to exit full screen and go to this mode. I apologize. There we go.
That's it.
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay,
Thank
super.
you.
Of course. Good. So I really just want to set a little bit of context here. The purpose of this proposed new building is to continue and enhance and develop our legacy of service. This moment has been many years in the making. Believe it or not, our service to this community began over 200 years ago. We were founded in 1821 when St. Luke's was built on farmland donated by Trinity Church. At that time, 1821, James Monroe was president of a nation with 23 states, and New York City was a very different place and only one borough. Throughout this time, through wars and epidemics, waves of immigration, and the city's ever-changing skyline, St. Luke's has remained steadfast in our mission to worship, witness, learn, grow, and serve, creating Jesus' embrace through outreach, arts, educational programs, and the sanctuary of our church and gardens. And by that, I mean, we seek to serve people not only of the Episcopal Church or even the Christian faith, but people of all faiths and none through the sanctuary of our gardens and our various educational and arts programming. We are proud that our campus is not only our spiritual home, but also a place of learning and beauty. It houses the cherished gardens, which St. Luke's opens to the public, and St. Luke's School, which has educated generations of children since 1945. The current school building was built in 1955. Before that, it inhabited various rooms in the townhouses and so forth. So why this new building? At the heart of our work are our community and our cultural programs. And after more than a decade of careful planning and in partnership with the exceptional team at BKSK, we have designed a building that will allow us to fully deliver those programs and meet our community's evolving needs. As you can see from this slide, this new building is intended to serve 5 key purposes: to advance our charitable mission and enhance our service to the neighborhood. Second, to address major space limitations caused by the 1981 parish fire, which will enable us, this new space, to run our community and educational programs. You can see in the middle slide there, the interior of the church after the 1981 fire. On the right-hand side, you can see the only remaining space that we have for all of our weekday programs. Whenever the school is in session, this is it. It's called Lochlin Hall, and it accommodates 60 people standing. 60 people standing, that's it, and less seated at tables or in a lecture format. And on the slide on the left, you can see the church pretty much as it now is. Obviously, it's an earlier photo, but if you, I'm not sure how big your screens are, but the little building to the right of the church at the back, that is the outside of Lochlin Hall. It's still there. You can see it when you walk by. And so these space constrictions after the 1981 parish fire, the parish hall was also destroyed and never rebuilt. So we are in many senses seeking to redress what was lost for our programs. Also, building a new purpose-built space in the corner of Christopher and Hudson will actually improve logistics, safety, and convenience and accessibility by shifting the entrance to Hudson Street, and also to fulfill the vision of our plan, which was presented over a decade ago, which included then the expansion of the school. And last, but by no means least, to create opportunities for broader community engagement. If we could move now to the next slide, please. Thank you. Over the past few months, my team and I have had direct conversations with many of our neighbors to clear up misinformation and provide transparency about the project. And I want to be as clear as possible about what will be in the building and what will not. We know there's a lot of misinformation out there. This hearing is, of course, focused on architectural appropriateness, but we know there's concern about programming. And so we want to take this opportunity to clarify what will be in the building and what will not. Please note, if you miss any of this, there is accurate information and has been for many weeks, indeed months, on our website, an FAQ sheet and more details about what is in the building and what is not. So it's not a homeless shelter, not an overnight shelter, not transitional housing. There will be no residential component. The building will be closed overnight. It's not a drug injection center. It's not a Narcan distribution site. It's not a soup kitchen. We are a church, and we will continue to help anyone who comes to our door seeking assistance as we are able, which we do now. If an individual comes to the parish house at 487 Hudson Street and they are in need, we will help as we are able. It might be a sandwich, it might be a Metro card, it might be a change of clothes, it might be help with, say, prescriptions. We'll walk to the pharmacy and we'll pay for those prescriptions. But we do have Narcan in sight. Many other businesses, community organizations do. It's part of our emergency kit. I can tell you it has not been used in 20 years of running the programs that I've been here. Of course, it's a more modern invention, but it hasn't been used. But we do have it as part of our emergency kit. What will be in the building, some things listed there. The building will be a place to continue and expand the programs that we already offer. So you can see listed there, Art and Acceptance for LGBTQ Youth. We've been running that for 20 years, safely and effectively. We can move it from the school building on Saturday late afternoon into this new site, actually further away from, for example, 100 Barrow and that sort of corner there. Community closet, we're bursting at the seams with the storage needs for that and space for guests. So again, moving it to a bigger space, purpose-built space will be helpful. Go project, early stage tutoring, math, reading, successfully operated for more than 20 years, and they will benefit also from enhanced space. We want to be able to open the new building to community groups. We always have many more requests than we can accommodate, whether it's 12-step programs or a program like Free to Be Under 3, which is an early developmental program developing through music, toddlers with their parents. So we look forward really to continuing to dialogue with the community board, elected officials and stakeholders to identify other potential partners for expanded programs for seniors and preschool and after school. So that's some of the programming that the new building will be able to allow us to develop, to expand. Finally, we do understand the importance of outdoor space for the students of St. Luke's School, where I also serve as a trustee on the governing board. While the new centre will be built on land we own, but is currently offered to the school as play space, we're actively working with the school's leadership to design new outdoor areas on campus. And you'll be hearing more about those plans in the near future. I have been asked by the school to read a statement from the school on this matter, which I am happy to share. It's from Tracy Fedonchik, head of school, and Nikki Ferguson-Arnold, chair of the school board, on behalf of the school leadership. And I quote, if I may, The school recognizes the importance of the church's mission and understands that the mission building will be used to further the church's support of an ability to bring together members of the community. As a member of St. Luke's School's Board of Trustees, Mother Stacey is committed to ensuring the school maintains ample outdoor spaces for curriculum and play. The church has been and continues to be actively engaged in evaluating space on the block and remains in dialogue with representatives of the school and our landscape architects as we work to reimagine and integrate outdoor areas for the benefit of our students and the wider community. Our team is in regular coordination with the church's architects around topics such as security, egress, and construction, and those concerns have been addressed in the current building design. And now one more statement, which I have asked Chair Spence's permission to read, and it's been granted. It's from someone who is a longtime friend, parishioner at St. Luke in the Fields, but couldn't join this call, from Roseanne Cash. Quote, "I have been a parishioner of St. Luke's Church for over 30 years, and I am an alumni parent of St. Luke's School. 3 of my daughters attended St. Luke's. Carrie, my youngest, attended from pre-K through 8th grade, and as an adult became an employee in the after-school program. My daughter, Caitlin, was married in the church. Suffice to say, I have a long, vibrant, and deeply personal relationship with St. Luke's. I have donated to the outreach programs in several ways, most obviously with clothes, toiletries, and money, but I also donated a song. My song, Jim and George, was posted on the website a couple of decades ago, and every click generated a little income to St. Luke's outreach programs. I don't just appreciate the outreach programs, I cherish them. I believe with all my heart that the proposed expansion of the physical space for outreach is absolutely essential for the community, now more than ever. Social programs are being drastically reduced and defunded, and St. Luke's can help fill the gap in a way like no other. The need for expansion is urgent. Times have changed and needs have grown. I trust Mother Stacey and her team implicitly to create this new space with the most loving attention to the needs not only of the larger community it will serve, but with care for the school and church members as the space around them gently changes. The design renderings that I have seen are elegant, appropriate to the location, and will serve the purpose well. If you have any questions for me, I am happy to talk or expound further on my love for the Church of St. Luke in the Fields and their unique, extraordinary, and timeless service to our community. Sincerely, Roseanne Cash." So thank you again for this opportunity to share our vision for the future of St. Luke in the Fields. We are proud of our history, inspired by our mission, and committed to serving our community for generations to come. I'm happy to meet with anyone to further dialogue about programming needs or about ways that you think we can enhance our service to the community safely and effectively. I'm now happy to turn it over to our partners at BKSK to walk us through the building that we have designed with these needs and purposes in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mother Stacey. I'll ask my partner, Harry Kendall, to begin the presentation, give you some background into the context and some of the influences that informed our design. Harry? Let's see, is Harry? Harry, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry for that technical problem. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi,
Thank you.
I'm Harry Kendall, a founding partner at BKSK Architects. Thank you very much to the committee for hearing this. Thank you for Mother Stacey for your remarks. We hope to live up to Roseanne Cash's review of our renderings. We'll get to those shortly. First, we'll orient everyone on the committee to the context, which you know well, but always good for a little orientation. So on the upper right, we see that we are in the Greenwich Village Historic District, designated in 1969, one of the city's first historic districts. The blue trapezoid is our site. Now, the historic district map is oriented with north to the top, as we usually read maps. The rest of this presentation will be north to the right, because we think this block is perceived with St. Luke's Church as the fronting on Hudson, and Hudson being the kind of primary facade. So this is just, you see the the block in its entirety with our site in blue again, and you see the site a little bit more zoomed in on the upper left, which we will show you more of. Next slide, please. This is just to make it a little that much more real, an orientation of a bird's eye view. Again, the trapezoid of our site. This is a very complicated block. It's as Chair Spence said, it's a super block. It's one tax lot for the entire, one zoning lot for the entire block, but a series of intricate tax lots that formed over time. We will be creating a new tax lot for our building. It's shown on the bottom right. And that's all just a matter of bookkeeping in a way, but it will join the rest of the buildings on this historic and interesting and increasingly varied block. Next, please. To orient everyone to how this is perceived on the street, we start with the primary elevation at the bottom. You see St. Luke's in the center. There's a rough symmetry to the Hudson Street side of the block with 3 flanking townhouses on each side and 2 open spaces as it is now on the far left and the far right, both with their own brick garden wall that form a kind of pair. Neither the walls are not identical, the townhouses are not identical, but there's a beauty and a symmetry to this historic part of the street. The 4 images on the left of the slide, you see we're going around our site. You see the garden wall stretching from the townhouse. You see it turning the corner and becoming a chain link fence. You see that chain link fence progressing down the block, and that fence connects the kind of very different scale of the Greenwich Street side with the scale of the school with its addition and 100 Barrow. So next, please. The designation report, written in 1969 with some charming and early designation report language, treats primarily what remains from the original block at the time of designation in 1969. It refers to the church as a charming little country church. And as you can see in the bottom left photo, it was that. The scale was 2.5-story townhouses with the church at the center of the block. The townhouses went right around the block. You see in 1934, that scale changed dramatically to the west, and you see in the 1969 designation report, that scale has changed on all the blocks surrounding, but the core remains. Anyway, that's enough for that. Next, please. So this sort of encapsulates, this slide is an overview of how the block has evolved, and it all helps us all to think about that. It helped us as architects to think about our responsibility of what is appropriate for the site in question. So on the upper left, in 1836, you see how the block was completely surrounded by townhouses with St. Luke's at the center. The designation report says the townhouses were built to shield the public view from the burial grounds and the gardens of St. Luke's. A good bit has changed. In 1899, the parish hall had been added, other additions to the rear of the church, some extensions to the townhouses, but that essential idea of the block remained pretty much the same. Similarly, by 1930, it still had only really been tinkered with, although the uses had become more varied in the block. Then leap forward in time, 39 years, and many of the townhouses have been lost. The school is built. It has its gym, and the Barrow Street Gardens were opened in the 1950s. The block has changed substantially, but the narrative of the block sort of is the center holds, being St. Luke's Church and the flanking townhouses. In the bottom left, labeled 2022, but still true now, some further changes have happened. Most notably, the addition to the school on the right side, and the upper floors, which don't show differently in plan, but have increased the height of the school, and 100 Barrow. The bottom left, the corner, and everyone in this committee knows this building well. So on to the next. So overall, the narrative of this block is one of evolution, increasing mixed use. The center holds, as I've been saying, the townhouses flank the church, the garden walls complete that rough symmetry, and then as you round the corner onto Christopher Street, we're progressing around the block in a counterclockwise fashion here. You encounter the also single-story addition to the school, then the taller school building with its upper floor additions, continuing around the block on the bottom row to 100 Barrow, and then back around to the townhouses. But so what kind of generalizations can you make about this block that help guide us? It's a very interesting pattern, if you call it a pattern, that as the Landmarks Committee has heard these successive applications, as the Landmarks Preservation Commission has approved things, there's a datum established that is mostly made up of the older masonry buildings, ones from the 1950s and of course from much earlier. But the school has that darker brick at the bottom, and then as additions were approved, they're clearly distinguishable as something that is added, leaving a perception of the historic building. As the condominium at 100 Barrow was built, or co-op rather, that datum was responded to with also a masonry base, and then as it went higher and set back, that's a darker material and in many cases metalwork. So there's an interplay in the block. The block has become much more mixed use. It's both apartments and townhouses, and the language is quite varied, and the different types of masonry is quite varied, but certain generalizations can be made, and we look to reinforce that pattern in a way that's both distinct but appropriate to the block. Next, please. So this corner, interesting enough, even though the original townhouses look like they went around the whole block uniformly, this corner has always been something different. It was kind of a break in the pattern and a purposeful difference. So that perception has guided us in how to address the site, which became more vacant than it was, and how we put a building back in a way that honors its varied history. So I turn this presentation back to Julie, who's the partner in charge of the project, and we'll talk about the design, our design intentions.
Thank you, Harry. As you noted, this corner has always been a unique sort of anomaly in the pattern of the townhouses and the kind of datum, the regular datum along Hudson, and even as it turned the corner onto Greenwich. And so we see that through several aspects. One is the lowering in scale, the drop of the cornice line at the corner with the introduction of a kind of legible pitched roof and the dormer reading. We see at the base an overt nod to commercial uses here, with the storefront windows with a kind of unique entry condition. And as you turn onto Christopher, which is this black and white image on the right, you see multiple entrances from the corner to mid-block, and then the building sort of opening up and revealing views to extensions to the townhouses beyond, framed by a fairly utilitarian language of the shed and a sort of garden wall here. We also see in the backdrop roof bulkheads of pitched roofs, dormers, and punched window language. And so we've used that as a little bit of a sort of inspiration for our proposed design. The next slide is another historic image which just kind of reiterates the idea that this corner was always seen as a unique condition and lower in scale than the rest of the block. The existing buildings start here. The townhouse with the fire escape and the one next door, which is another sort of hardware store, were demolished as part of the opening up of the corner, and then the building that we've been referring to, the lower scale building there. So this is a view, again, reminding ourselves what Harry spoke about of the kind of composition of the block, with the church holding center, marked by its entry tower, and the kind of balanced composition between the townhouses flanking and the two brick walls at either end. And here what we've done is we've added the floor plan of the proposed project into the site plan for reference, so that you can understand the relationship of entries and interior spaces to the bigger block. So the blue arrow, the large blue arrow, indicates the main entry to our proposed building, sort of adding to the collection of the rectory, the church, and the parish offices, which enter off of Hudson Street to provide sort of church-based programming. We'll look at this detailed plan and again in a minute at a larger scale, but just to draw your attention that we also have two additional entries to the building. One is a service entrance at the corner, and then we have a means of egress at the back here, which exits directly onto Christopher without relying on any kind of passage through the interior of the block. So this building is entirely self-contained within its footprint. Here is a more detailed view of that floor plan, zooming in again to orient you. This is Hudson, and this is Christopher Street. And here you see again that main entrance, which comes into through the vestibule to a large kind of welcoming entry lobby with a security desk with transparent expression, which you'll see in the elevations in a minute, but good views out, and also sort of flanked by a supporting office. Most of the space within this building is a single room, multi-purpose, highly adaptable program space to allow for all of the activities that Mother Stacy described in her opening remarks. We do have a cooking kitchen, which is located along Christopher with its own service entrance. The Hudson Street spaces that are along Hudson Street include utilities, water room and electrical room, and a large storage room, as well as and more further into the building are a collection of single-user restrooms. And then, as we described, the rear of the building includes an open-air outdoor space that is surrounded by an 8-foot-high masonry wall to limit views into and out of this building. And this is primarily for egress. There's a change in grade between the corner of the building. The street drops downward, so we need to make up for the change in level. So we've added a ramp to allow for accessible exit from the building as a separate independent egress means. So this slide describes our design concept. What you see to the left is a kind of diagram, cartoon diagram of the kit of parts that make up our design approach. And to the right is a bird's eye, as if we're flying above the building, looking down onto it. And several of the aspects of the block that Harry talked about have been integrated into our design approach. This is a unique building on the site in that it's a single story. And to kind of maintain the balance and the kind of symbolic symmetry with the church at the center of the block, we are proposing a reconstruction of the existing brick garden wall. This would be made out of salvaged brick from the existing brick wall. We would have to deconstruct it in order to construct the building behind, but that brick will be salvaged, clean, and reused, and built in a way that will look remarkably similar to the brick wall that's there now. To mark entry, we are proposing a kind of glazed, what we're calling an entry beacon, which is a subtle nod to the tower entry of the church, but much more modest in scale. But again, this is a public building for the church, so we want to sort of provide an open and transparent entry to welcome people into the building. As the building rounds the corner, we wanted to keep the idea of the sort of brick wall fronting Hudson Street. And so we are proposing a change of material to a masonry terracotta rain screen, which we will show you more information about later. But in this way, it provides a contrasting material so the legibility of that garden wall remains. And this terracotta is a complementary but distinctive material so that you still see the contrast and the scale of the original garden wall. Also part of this Christopher Street facade is a granite base with some integral planters, some metal trellis that will be built in to allow for the introduction of some growies to kind of occupy the facade as well, to bring some of the green to the street. We have a similar but much smaller scale rear entrance beacon, again transparent, to mark the exit to the street and to kind of balance the composition at the western edge. In the middle of the building, we have what we're calling a roof monitor, which recalls the idea of roof bulkheads to bring some daylight into the main event space. Lastly, we have lowered the level of the roof here on the southern end of our building so that the mechanical equipment can be depressed below the roof, so its presence is minimally visible from the street. And the entire roof will be planted with a sedum green roof so that we provide a fifth facade or a nice view from the buildings looking down onto the building from above, because this is a one-story structure. So just very briefly, these were the design concepts that Harry mentioned, the center kind of modest tower that you saw in the kit of parts diagram previously that we're recalling in our entry, the way the brick wall is fronting on Hudson and rounding the corner. In our case, we're proposing that transition to the terracotta rather than the vertical pickets, but a similar kind of design language. And then again, the idea of a distinctive material over the brick wall datum. So there's a contrast and the legibility of that garden wall remains. This building, the single story, is something that we do see in district as a kind of interesting typology. And what characterizes these one-story buildings is a kind of beginning as a utilitarian structure that has been altered and adapted over time. They have a bit of an idiosyncrasy, maybe sort of liveliness of roofline, depending on the needs of what's happening beyond, the introduction of glazing and landscape, and assimilation of landscape into the buildings, and a kind of idiosyncrasy of design just to express the changes over time. We also looked at single-story pavilion typologies in kind of public, semi-public, and landscape spaces in the city, particularly in historic districts citywide, to draw our inspiration for that terracotta, the color and the sort of the expression of that. And these buildings seem particularly appropriate because of their kind of modesty of scale and the way that they are seen almost in deference to a backdrop of mature trees and landscapes. And so we felt that that was an appropriate material to be inspired by. So we'll do a series of views walking around the building. Here we're standing and we have reference plans to the lower right, but here we're standing to the south across Hudson Street looking to the building. You see that reconstruction of the brick, what we're calling the garden wall, broken and slightly widened to allow for the insertion of this glass beacon to mark entry and welcome. You see the use of the terracotta panels above the brick wall just to make up for the height difference between the existing wall and the needs to accommodate structure and mechanical behind. And the building at the corner is about 14 feet tall, so it's not a tall building. We do have some additional clear story to allow natural light to come into the office. This is a little bit of an elevation / perspective, standing directly across the street, which gives you much more of a sense of the openness and the lightness that will be present in the center of the building, particularly giving some views in and views out from that welcome space in the lobby. You also see in the upper left the mechanical, which has been brought down with some modest screening, disguising one of the pieces of equipment that's slightly taller than the others, but we've gone to great care to pull the mechanical to the middle of the building and to have it limit the appearance from the street, the visibility from the street. And here we see a view of the proposal as it turns the corner. And what we've done here is, again, the terracotta hovers above the brick wall. You'll see a break in the cornice line there because we have a reveal. The building slightly steps back and in so that you can see the brick turning the corner on the third side. So you still maintain that legibility of the brick wall and how it fronts Hudson Street. And we've inserted a planter there to give some green space to occupy that reveal. Then looking down the block, you see the service entrance and some windows into the spaces with this granite base and a cornerstone to mark the year of the building. And then you see that the building kind of steps up about 2 feet in height to accommodate the taller spaces for the proportions that are needed for the program space and the support spaces surrounding it. This is a material board that shows the proposed materials for the building. Again, we've talked a lot about this, the reused brick. This gives you a view of the terracotta rain screen and the profile, which is intended to somewhat recall a cornice on its side or the picket fences rendered in terracotta, a little bit of an abstraction of that. And for the color, again, what we're proposing is a kind of collection of some deep greens with some lighter green highlights. And we're working with Boston Valley Terracotta, who many of you may know. They're located in Buffalo, and they've been providing some test samples, and I'll zoom in here. And the idea is that the glaze would have some reflectivity. It would have some variation in color, so it would sort of resemble and recall the dappled light that comes through the trees, the mature street trees that will remain. And so that although it's a fairly long facade with some windows in it, it still gives a liveliness and a sense of craft and almost like you're walking by a piece of handmade pottery. We're proposing a locally sourced jet mist granite at the base, and all of the metal work, the metal panels and the window frames will be this deep black magic, which will be very complementary to the terracotta and the brick. Just briefly, some detailed wall sections that show the effort to kind of step back and provide some plane changes, again, to provide some liveliness and relief as we change materials from the brick wall to the terracotta. And then a kind of recess and a little eyebrow that, again, starts to establish a datum and gives an idea of a kind of modern interpretation of a cornice line along Hudson Street. And then again, along Christopher with the introduction of the granite base, the terracotta with the metalwork kind of hovering above just to kind of break up the height into a series of kind of planes that will catch some light and shadow as well. This is a view standing across Christopher looking to the building, and we've tried to sort of fade out the trees, but if you look closely here, this is where we have a break in height between the two buildings, sort of similarly to what we saw in the historic photos with the sort of townhouse scale. And the change of roof lines, the suggestion of lintels, which are made out of metal panel here to kind of address the coursing of the terracotta, but gives some additional level of detail and a nod to a kind of historic window. And then again, the expression at the exit monitor as the building steps towards the school to the west. And in our final view, this is a view standing from the west, looking back towards the east up Christopher, where you get a better sense of that exit which is through this garden gate. You see a glimpse of the 8-foot-high wall that separates the outdoor space of the St. Luke's Center from the adjacent outdoor spaces. We like the way that this red brick wall will kind of bookend and bracket and work together with the Hudson Street brick wall. You can see kind of up in the distance that roof monitor bringing light down into the main space, and the introduction of some more glazing here to bring some light in to the building from the Christopher Street side, along with the opportunity for some signage across from the path train just to announce the activities and events that are happening to encourage community participation. Just a final note to clarify that the chain link fence is not part of this proposal. This is part of the school. And so while we will be removing the part of the chain link that is existing as required to construct our building, the project limit line ends really at this brick wall. So the remainder of the chain link fence and the gate to the schoolyard will remain as is. So we thank you for the opportunity to present our presentation. We look forward to hearing your feedback. For those that are curious about learning more about the building, we've provided some information to the website below, and we welcome you to visit the website and to follow up. Thank you, Chair Spence, and that concludes our presentation.
I have a few things to ask, just
Yes.
to clarify the presentation, and then later there'll be more subjective comments. Could you go to the thank you slide? I think it shows best my question.
This one?
I'm looking at my own to make it bigger.
Oh, okay.
It's the one that has
Okay.
thank you written along.
Yes, that's where we are. Mhm.
Yeah. What is the setback of the clear story windows on Hudson Street and turning the corner? Are they
There,
up against the back of the wall, and is there an overlap of the top of the wall?
so the terracotta is set back about 4 inches from the face of the brick. The clear story only happens at the near the main building entrance on Hudson Street. So the rest, the vertical lines that you're seeing is
I
the
can see
texture
the
of the terracotta, that vertical kind of delineation of terracotta patterning. So the only clear story is at the entry and immediately adjacent in that
It's the
office
math I'm
space.
talking about, but does that mean it's sitting on top of the wall? It's just hard to.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
For all intents and purposes, the terracotta is sort of sitting on, but it's set back 4 inches and sits on its own independent structure behind the wall, which
Right,
we're
okay. But
constructing.
visually, it sits on top of the wall.
Visually, yes, but there is a sort of break in plane so that the two are distinct.
And then in the same picture, looking down the street,
Down Christopher?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is the distance from the wall to the step up of the roof?
The distance of, oh, the height here, that is a
No,
little
no,
over,
the vertical
yes, right.
horizontal distance. The horizontal distance.
Oh, that
The
is
corner of
yeah, right here, the reveal.
yeah, down
Yes,
to the
that is a little over a foot. So we've got a foot of a sort of reveal there to in that
right,
shadow to create that shadow so you can see the brick returning behind.
right, okay. That's the questions that I have. May I ask the members of the committee? We could start with those in the room, perhaps.
Well, I think I'll start, Janelle. I want to thank Mother Stacy and other representatives of the church for this presentation. I want to express my appreciation to St. Luke for their stewardship of this local property. And As you have shown in the presentation, not only has it provided a traditional church setting, but it's also increased the school program and provided one of the most beautiful, tranquil garden settings open for the public to enjoy. And we thank you for that. My first question is about basements. And I'm wondering, does the church have a basement?
The sanctuary?
Yes.
Yes, it does have a basement.
Okay. Well,
But this building does not have a
But
basement.
this building does not. It's a single story on grade.
I understand that from the presentation.
Mhm.
You did talk quite a bit about the need for additional space for your programs and the church activities. And that is certainly something that we sympathize with very much. And it's, I would be hard pressed to find any building owner that doesn't find the need for additional space, especially with a long history that you have. So I think that's an important point. This is an important opportunity, not only to provide for the church's mission, but also to add new life to the corner, long ago inhabited by row houses. BKSK has shown itself to be adept at designing new buildings in our historic districts in previous projects before this board. This corner deserves to bring eyes and light to the sidewalk and street, to have windows so that passersby can sense the activities within. All the historic examples shown on this block have ecclesiastical or residential features that have not been explored in this concept. The examples of the neighborhood one-story buildings are commercial examples not appropriate for the church. They are so-called taxpayers because they are designed to simply make a profit or pay taxes for the lot. And even these commercial examples have large windows on the streets. The one-story park pavilions are inappropriate as they are all built for concessionaires in actual parks or plazas, not in this kind of a situation and not for church purposes. It is equally puzzling, though not a part of our review, that the church would pass up the opportunity to construct inexpensive, raw space for future use in the form of a basement, just as the church and all the other buildings, including the row houses, have basements. This concept recreates the non-historic blank brick wall with dark side panels that create a foreboding, repressive face that can only be described as a prison block, complete with guard towers, and has no redeeming historic reference or connection to the neighborhood street life. Surely you can do better. Thank you for this presentation.
Can I just respond to that, Chair
Please.
Spence? Couple of items. Our current church basement is used for A, mechanicals, B, the music program, choir room, sometimes as a nursery, music library, so it's already actually being utilized. Number two, we did actually explore sensibly the possibility of excavating underneath, as it were, to open out the basement and so on and so forth and make that usable space. Two problems. Number one was it would only yield about 2,000 square feet. And our current space needs are more like 5,500, 6,000 as the current building will offer. So that's one thing. And the other piece of it, when we explored it with architects, pre-COVID this was that in order to get light into the church basement, to make it a space that anyone would actually want to be in, it would cost, even then, the estimate was about 16 million. And so it was cost prohibitive, not a good use of the space. The space in the church basement is already utilized. It's a wonderful idea. So we explored it and found it to be insufficient for our needs, in fact. So just to offer that data point to the committee. And actually, the beautiful skylight does let a lot of light into the interior of the beautiful BKSK building. And I'm not sure that the renderings perhaps allowed the full effect of that to be perceived. But the interior renderings are, in fact, light filled. And so I just want to offer that perspective based on the design so far.
Could someone answer the other question about why there's no basement?
Yes, I can do that.
Exactly a landmarks question, but
So sure. So as you know, we are up against the PATH train. And although it seems like this would be inexpensive to build a basement, it's actually quite costly. One of the things we haven't really talked about because it's not the purview of this committee, but this is a very modest building in budget. We have to be very wise with the church's investment. And part of that means we build what is needed. Some studies were done by previous architects to look at adding a second story or a basement, which would necessitate an elevator and egress stairs, which start to eat up the footprint of this building and mean that the building would be significantly more expensive and also wouldn't yield the floor plate that is required to provide the space needed for the church's programs. And so also just to speak to the idea of, the lack of glazing in this building, it's part of the reason why we sort of doted on the floor plan is, again, this building is very economical in terms of space, but also sensitive to the fact that the programs that are going on within this building are not ones that one wants direct views to the street, views in and views out. So we have provided windows where appropriate based on the program that is against the outer ring of the building. But you're correct, it is not a commercial building, but it is one that is sensitive to the programmatic requirements and what's appropriate in terms of views in to the building. And so we've tried to mediate that by adding some large punched windows along Christopher that look into some support spaces, but also through the use of this terracotta material, which I think rather than feeling prison-like, it's a very bespoke material. It's quite beautiful, and it's a little bit of a gift of the church to the street. To have something that is, so varied and so kind of lovely to be, to be walked along, given that we are constrained in how much glazing we can allow into the building.
okay. Valerie, do you have the questions?
I'm going to save my comments for business session.
Okay. Anita?
The public.
Anita, if you're talking, we don't hear you. It's *6.
All right, sorry, I'm here. My dog went crazy just for the second. I think, thank you. Yes, thank you for the presentation. I am rather fond of the Hudson Street facade. I'm so grateful that this is a small scale building, that we've maintained that balance of the site. So that's a very key thing. I think it's Christopher Street facade, I imagine will be difficult for people to visualize. And it does feel rather gloomy, and maybe that's the renderings. But also, there's so many ways to bring in light this kind of reminds me of container architecture, you know, but on a high end. And I do actually like some of these rain screens, which I didn't think I would, but especially if you can get a really beautiful glazing on it, it could work. I just think it's very closed. And in fact, it doesn't even feel like it has a very good rhythm or life to it. It feels just the facts, you know, a service entrance right on that corner. I find is an odd choice. Why not have it at the back and somehow have some light emanating from the corner would, I think, benefit the building. So that's it for me right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eugene, do you have comments?
I don't have any questions for the presenters.
I have one comment I'll make during this public session quickly. Chenault, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, Mother Stacy and the design team. I mean, I hear all of the reasoning, but aesthetically, this falls pretty flat for me in terms of it being within the historical context. And the vibe that I get from it is it's like belongs at a lake upstate to house equipment for like recreational use. It doesn't look like something that has any context with the Greenwich Village Historic District. I don't need a response back, just want to voice that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eugene, you did not wish to speak.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll speak during the business session.
Okay. I have several points, one of which is sort of an elaboration of others. I asked about the part above the wall. It looks like, and it is in fact what it is, that it's elongation of the wall rather than it's being something built above it. And I wonder why it was decided not to have a setback there. So it's in the manner of historic buildings that's set back, if you will, a penthouse almost.
The reason that there is
And
not more of
let
a,
me say one more thing. I think
oh, sure. I didn't know if you were waiting for me.
in the neighborhood is the way the school was just the addition on top was just added up as an obvious addition, but like it was trying to extend a wall that didn't extend the wall, but put out a new one on top. It's
Mhm.
that feeling.
The setback, the lack of setback is really determined by kind of trying to have adequate space for the both the program inside, because spatially we would have to move structure inboard to support the load of the roof coming down further inboard to the building. Again, it's a single story, and so again, we're trying to kind of balance the desire for architectural expression on the outside by changing planes, but also maximizing the space available for the church for their programs within it. And so with every kind of setback, we have to, it means a loss of space and a compromise to kind of some of the functionality that the building needs to provide.
Although I would jump in briefly and say that it is not like we were forced into it. We thought it is a fairly small scale wall, 5 feet tall. A 4-inch setback is it will read very differently from the school addition that you refer to. So it seems to us appropriately deferential to the existing wall.
Okay, the other question has to do with the Christopher Street facade. This had much comment. In the campus, both the school and the new apartment building on the southwest corner and the garden wall all turn the corner and give equal weight to both facades, if you will, of the building. And that's also reflected in the block to the west with the archive building that, apart from the loading bays on the south side, is a completely symmetrically round building, around the block building. What most disturbs me is that it's a marked change, as though it's almost we're not supposed to see the Christopher Street side, and it looks utilitarian, whatever. And there's nothing historic about the way it is. Whereas picking up on the existing historic wall idea going around would make a nice fourth corner to that block and make Christopher Street, which is, though it's across town street, is a major thoroughfare and like a miniature version of the 14th Street and 34th Street, so that it would give a more wholeness to the building and respect both sides.
Understood. I think what we were kind of drawing on was less the way the school turns the corner than the way that the garden wall turns the corner at Barrow Street, where the wall is clearly frontal to Hudson Street, and when you round the corner to Barrow, it transitions to an entirely different reading. And so again, going back to the idea of balancing off of Hudson and that composition, that was our point of departure for the change of material at this facade.
And can you address the lack of historic reference in the Christopher Street side? That came up in several remarks.
Well, I think for us, this is a kind of new building and a different typology. We believe we do have historic references in that we have established a kind of datum of the base, the stone base, which is prevalent on the block and in the neighborhood. We have the punched window language with the expression of kind of lintels, albeit in metal panel rather than in stone. And the use of terracotta is, one that's a masonry language that is, while not red brick, is certainly something that is, I think, appropriate. It's a historic material. The sort of glazing is very well crafted, and that has a historic element to it. So while not kind of overtly referencing the townhouses or the church, this is a sort of unique building, and we think it's appropriate that it be expressed as such, while using a palette and kind of referencing historic language, but in a modern way.
Then that applies to the design, if you will, and whatever, without regard to the materials, the actual planes and shapes and so forth. Is the
Well,
same idea
I,
of-
I think that the
on-
materials are a key component of that. As we noted, there's there is precedent for this site to be sort of a lower building. It has utilitarian elements that were viewable, viewed in the historic imagery. And while perhaps it does not have a sort of townhouse rhythm or what have you, we think that it is going to be an appropriate addition to this block, which has a sort of idiosyncratic element to it. I mean, there's sort of a lot of different expression here.
I want to return to, it might seem like a small thing, but certainly at the beginning of the design, we asked ourselves whether we should be returning the garden wall on Christopher Street, but it's such an unusual, again, might seem like a small thing, but at the Christopher Street end and at the Barrow Street end, there are similar brick walls. They don't turn the corner. I would be hard pressed to find many other examples of walls that front only on a street like that and then don't turn the corner at all. So it seemed, it seemed like an expression of the primacy of Hudson Street and the way St. Luke's fronts on it and then steps down to the either end of the block. And we wanted to honor that quiet but kind of idiosyncratic and distinctive pattern.
Chanel, could I add a comment?
Yes, please. We want to finish
Yeah,
up.
I think that several times the comment was made that the original row houses on that corner stepped down. It was they had that corner building looked different in a certain respect from the other row houses. The cornice line changed and so forth. But I think that maybe there isn't mention of the fact that on Barrow Street, the exact same thing happens with those row houses. And that was not used as an excuse to somehow change the scale on Barrow Street of the row houses. It's simply a part of the different architectural pieces of the row houses. And the continuity is not destroyed by the fact that some of the row houses have dormer roofs and some do not. So I find that that was a very weak argument for somehow treating this corner in the manner it's being treated. Thank you.
Are there
Thank
other
you.
comments from any committee?
There are questions in the chat. Can either someone address those questions? In the Q&A, sorry. There's questions in the Q&A. So can someone from the church or the architect address those three questions?
Can you just outline them?
I can't click on them. So
One is, how much will this cost?
yeah, can we get
These are
those
people that are
answered?
online. There'll be an opportunity to speak later.
Right, but can we get those are questions I think a lot of people
The
have.
people who made the chats will be able to speak later and make these points. We generally don't take chat testimony.
But if someone could type the answers from the church or from that, it would be nice to get those questions answered. I'm curious about them.
Okay, we'll have those in the regular time then.
Thanks.
Are there other questions or comments from the members of the committee?
Janine has her hand raised. She's a board member.
Are there members of the board who have questions? Please recognize them.
Okay.
Elevate.
Okay, thank you. I'm Janine Kiley. I'm not a member of the committee. I'm one of the former board chairs, and I'm actually a former chair of the Schools and Education Committee for Community Board 2. And my kids briefly attended St. Luke's. And I will say, I have several questions, but I might as well ask, what is the cost of this building?
I don't know. Is that something we typically talk about?
I don't see why that would be the purview of this meeting.
Okay.
It's not a landmark consideration, the cost.
I know, I'm just asking. So let me ask a different question. If you don't want to answer that one, I've heard it's out there, so maybe I'll just Google it. Why did you only want to build a one-story building? Over the parking lot, you built a large residential building. So you're taking up, these taxpayer lots. Frankly, when the Department of City Planning at New York City and developers look at one-story buildings, they say, oh, this is an opportunity to build something better for the community. Space is at a premium in this community. So I get that there's no basement, but why would you take up such a large footprint and only build a one-story building?
Mother Stacy, do you want to respond, or would you like me to?
You're welcome to respond.
Okay. Well, I think the first thing I would say is that The 100 Barrow development was a commercial sort of venture with a developer, so it's an entirely different different project and shouldn't be seen kind of in the same context as this. This is an endeavor sort of being built by the church itself, which.
Well, I'm just gonna say it was a different financing mechanism. I mean, it could be a mixed use building where the church retains the use of the ground floor and there's other stuff on top of it.
Are you
So
suggesting you want another residential building on that corner? Is that
I'm asking why you only looked at a one-story building.
because it meets our
Because it's
needs?
been posed, if we have that sort of, then we'll move on to another.
Okay, then let me ask a few other questions. Back to the windows, because I was looking at your slide. Let me pull that up, the slide with the uses. I mean, I get the 12-step program, potentially after-school programs, but film screenings, community closets, free to be under 3, funeral and wedding receptions, Go Project, music and arts. A lot of these things are not there are things that probably people would appreciate windows, and you can always use shades if you want privacy. So I'm just looking at this list and just wondering, I do understand that there are some, I mean, that's why people have shades in their bedrooms, but when they don't want them, they open them up and they get light. So I'm just wondering if there's any other reasons why you wouldn't want to have some windows to make it a more hospitable wall.
So again, the interior renderings, which were not part of this presentation, that BKSK is working on, and they can certainly chime in a few minutes more eloquently than me, show actually beautifully lit interiors. There is a beautiful skylight in the center of the design, which was part of the initial the decomposition with the cutouts and the pullouts that you saw there. And there will be film screenings, and there obviously is accommodation made for that in the audiovisual in the interior. Essentially, it's a large, flexible, multi-purpose gathering space with a kitchen. And so it needs to be utilized by a wide variety of demographics. So you've got, perhaps little children. And just as with the playground, there's screening all around, because you don't necessarily want everyone on the outside peering through into the playground. That's actually part of our consideration here, because of the variety of folks who will be using this space for a variety of purposes. So it's actually, I think, in a way, it's a lot more light filled in the interior than one might imagine from just these few renderings.
Yeah, my concern wasn't about the interior light. We all live in New York City and know how important lighting is to light dark spaces. I'm talking about the streetscape and why you couldn't add windows and also add shades for times when you do want privacy.
Okay, so I think I may have misunderstood the thrust of your question. I'll let the architect answer. Thank you.
Well, I think we have answered that, there was concern for views in and views out, and we have some large punch windows here. They're, fairly generous, but we've heard from several people about the window comment, and we understand the concern.
Yeah. And then I just have one last question. One of the opening slides talked about the fire from 1981. I did not live here then, but I did look online, and that building was to the south of the church. So how come you didn't look at any spaces to the south side of the church, since that's the building that you referenced for the need for additional space?
We did very much explore that among many other options. The old parish hall was too small for current needs. The square footage was much smaller than our current needs, number one. Number two, there are some constrictions around the site where the former parish hall is located. The beautiful charming ruin wall that's still in the interior of the block. That area now is part of the gardens that we open up to the public. So obviously, if we were to build on that site, that would automatically take away from the area of the contemplation garden that we open up to the public. And third, we considered very carefully in this site here, issues of egress, access, and suitability. And so disgorging and entering, everyone directly onto Hudson Street with another egress exit only onto Christopher is actually much more suited for the variety of folks who will be using this space than trying to do something on the interior of the block that would necessarily go through the public gardens, perhaps through tenant gardens, perhaps through school egress patterns. So it's a combination of those things: square footage, location, and logistics, I would say.
Got it. Okay. And I guess I want to ask in terms of timing, why did you choose to bring this to CB2 Landmarks in July when a lot of school, because they're.
That is not a landmarks question.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there others who wish to, you have other question?
No, that was my my last question. Thank you.
Are there other members of the board who wish to have questions? No raised hands. Eugene?
Chenault, there are no other raised hands from the
I have a
board.
question.
All right, Valerie?
Was there any sort of like community design charrette leading up to this design you presented to us today?
We've made numerous presentations to members of the church community and got feedback from them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We'll now move on, Eugene, to the list of parishioners.
And neighbors.
Yes, thank you. So I will be announcing names in groups of 4. As I call the names of 4, I'll either elevate the people if they're in the Zoom, or if you're in the room, please come to the front so you can be seated. I'll start. Yes, I'll start the list of names. First is Valerie Komar. Second, Malachi Duffy. Third, Teresa Goldsboro. Fourth, Grady Tarpley.
He's on Zoom or in the room?
These are all on Zoom.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you so much.
Oh, excuse me, I've neglected to give the part before, that we want to limit these to 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry. And actually, it looks like
We have a timer.
Sorry, if you want, I can put a timer up, but first, it looks like actually Keen Berger from CB2 has raised her hand. If we could.
That would be useful if we can. I didn't understand we had that capability.
Okay.
Yes, can I talk now? You mentioned me.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I am on CB2, and I am also on the Schools and Education Committee, and I am also on the Social Services Committee, and I am here to listen carefully, and I'm taking notes, and I just appreciate everyone who's here. That's what I wanted to say.
What you didn't say is your name.
Okay, Keen Berger.
Thank you, Keen.
I should not. I care about you all. I love the work everybody's doing.
Thank you. Is the timer set up now?
Yes, I've shared the timer, so it should be visible on the screen.
It is.
Okay. So I'll start the timer when the first speaker starts speaking.
I just wanted to check that I'm the first speaker and not the second or the third.
Sorry, if this is Valerie, yes,
Yeah.
you're the
Yeah.
first speaker.
Okay, I'll begin now then.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to share my very strong support for this landmarks application at 497 Hudson Street.
Can you give me a co-host? Go ahead, I'm sorry. It's just, we always see is the timer here, we don't see the person. It's not you, it's just needs to be,
I'll do the timing until it's sorted out.
it's fine. It's just, we're just looking at a timer in the room, so. Can you just pin
Just
the
please,
person speaking?
we can't see the timer and the person speaking. So if the person speaking can be visible, and then just give a 30-second warning and an end, and we'll be fine. Okay.
Great. Oh, I can't do it.
St. Luke's is not only a cherished historic institution in the West Village and Greenwich Village, but also currently and historically an exceptional neighbor. And it has been my home parish for many years, not to say decades. I have a great respect for the care that parish volunteers provide to our community, and I do believe they deserve the space necessary to continue and expand that work. The fire, as we have heard, that destroyed St. Luke in the Fields Church in 1981 also destroyed its parish house. Since then, as you've also heard, we have not had our own space for the many volunteer-led programs we offer to children, seniors, and vulnerable populations. Without adequate space, it is indeed remarkable, although not surprising, how much difference we already make to so many. And finally, while I applaud the proposed design of this low-rise building on a landmarked block, the most important aspect of our planning has been to ensure that what takes place within the space furthers the church's mission. And in that sense, I believe that the building's design and its intent are well suited to each other and in harmony. Thank you for that opportunity to address you all this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Malachi Duffy.
Hi, good evening. I'm Malachi Duffy. I was born in the city and have lived here for most of my adult life, the last 34 years in Greenwich Village. My first experience with St. Luke in the Fields was a physical, aesthetic one, rather than a religious, spiritual one. One of my favorite walks has been to amble through the streets of the West Village to the river, and then back following various routes. On one such walk, I headed up to Barrow Street from the river and discovered the enchanting garden at St. Luke's, established on the property at the corner of Barrow and Hudson's. This has become a favorite respite on my walks, and it had become a goal in and of itself. My love of this beautifully maintained space, which is open to the public, led me to find out more about St. Luke's as a parish, all of which has been positive. But I was a long time participant and supporter of another church in the village, one of different tradition. Then that all changed. In the midst of serious spiritual turmoil, I decided to see if I might find some solace and comfort at St. Luke's. In my very first Sunday visit, several parishioners offered welcome and advice. They introduced me to Mother Stacy, who took the time to listen to my concerns and show me the interior of the church. I found the interior of St. Luke's comforting, and it became an oasis for me. And as I found the garden so compelling, I found the physical environment of St. Luke in the Fields to be welcoming and pleasing. At the same time, as I become more involved in its life and programs, especially for my older senior friends, I could see that St. Luke's warm hospitality has been limited by space restrictions. And as I become more involved in serving St. Luke's in religious life, I know that aesthetics are respectful and are a nurturing part of the environment. I found St. Luke's to be a good shepherd to its flock, a good steward of its physical, if limited, resources, and a good neighbor to the wider community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Teresa Goldsboro.
Well, you already know my name. I am Teresa Goldsboro. I currently serve on the vestry of St. Luke's as senior warden. It's exciting to stand at the precipice of completing this mission project, 20 years in the making. 205 years ago, the Church of St. Luke's was planted in the fields of the West Village by the waters of the Hudson River and on top of Minetta Creek. For these 205 years, St. Luke's has been a resident in good standing of the West Village. This faith community has served and continues to serve the congregation that worships here, as well as the community we are planted in and beyond. St. Luke's has a long history of stepping into the gap. Since its inception, St. Luke's provided refuge for Manhattanites during plagues that beset New York City and distributed bread on Saturdays to the poor in the 1800s. In the 1900s, St. Luke's provided spiritual support and funeral rites to people who died of AIDS when other religious institutions closed their doors at the height of the AIDS epidemic. St. Luke's hosted a persons living with AIDS dinner for over a decade to ensure that a hot meal and welcome was available to persons treated as outcasts. I came to St. Luke's for the first time for Christmas Eve service in 1989 on the recommendation of a friend. I've always been a spiritual person. Growing up in the Baptist church in Bayside, Queens, I felt like an outcast due to my sexual orientation. I left the church, but did not lose my faith in God. I found in St. Luke and the Episcopal Church a spiritual home and community. I say all this to say that it is part of our spiritual tradition to welcome the stranger, care for the orphaned, love our neighbors as ourselves, and to love one another as we are loved.
Thank you.
We take
Sorry, we've got 2 minutes. Thank you. If you could wrap it up.
We take being good neighbors and good stewards of the gifts we have been given seriously. This mission building will allow us to serve not only our internal spiritual community more fully, it will allow us to increase our service to our neighbors and in this community.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Grady Tarpley.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Grady Tarpley, and I've been a parishioner at St. Luke in the Fields for 4 years, when I moved here from the West Coast and found a great community, not just in New York as a whole, but particularly in the West Village. As I've come to learn over my time at St. Luke's, it has played a vital and historical role in the development of the West Village. As Teresa mentioned, it has served a lot of the locals that are in our community. And as some in the chat have even mentioned, it was a very different community 250 years ago from what it is today, developing from being quite literally in the fields to something new, vibrant, and generative. The building has been effortlessly thought out to think about how it will serve the locals' needs and how it will blend into the community, while also promising a renewed hope after the fire from over 40 years ago. Much thought has been given to our own program needs that currently exist and how those needs can be expanded into the future, while also honoring the character of the West Village and the unique vibe that it brings to New York as a whole. The programs already offered by the parish will be given a new home, and the existing programs will continue to expand while also respecting what makes the West Village unique. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The next 4 speakers will be Thomas Miller, Richard Cheagle, Bruce Gorlick, and the Reverend Caroline Stacy. So Tom Miller, I'm not sure if you're in the room or on Zoom.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, hello, everyone. I'm Tom Miller. In August of 1976, 49 years ago, I moved into a studio apartment around the corner from St. Luke in the Fields. That studio apartment is still my home half a century later. Through all the changes of the village has undergone in those 50 years, the church and environs of St. Luke's has been an island of stability, vibrant community life, and sensitivity to the needs of its neighbors in the heart of the West Village. I am enthusiastically in favor of the new mission building community center proposed for the corner of Christopher and Hudson Streets. It will be a modest structure, just one story, and yet its preliminary design is distinctive, even elegant in an understated village kind of way. The interior is both spacious and adaptable. It will provide room for the church's current programs, but to my mind, equally important, perhaps more important, it will be open to the community. There are few, if any, gathering places in the West Village large enough to accommodate a gathering of sizable numbers and at the same time maintain a neighborly scale that promotes engagement of issues and activities in the community's interest. The proposed building would be a powerful sign of healthy and spirited community life, a sign of the promise of village life in the midst of a great city. And since I live just around the corner and have no plans for moving on, I believe this building will be a considerable asset to this dynamic neighborhood for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Richard Teagle.
Good evening, I'm Richard Kygel. When a neighborhood house of worship offers cultural, educational, religious, and material support to everyone, it often becomes the spiritual heart of a community. St. Luke's had this kind of public meeting place for over a century. The original parish house opened in 1860 and served the community for 121 years until it was destroyed by the fire. The project that we're talking about today is really nothing new. We're only replacing what we lost. We've had to turn down many worthwhile opportunities to serve our neighbors due to lack of space. Dinner receptions for visiting bishops, training seminars requested by the diocese, neighboring churches looking for retreat sites, block associations and community boards looking for a meetings place, programs for moms, toddlers, and seniors, yoga groups, 12-step groups, weddings and funerals, all of that was lost. But with this new community center, all of that can happen. And we can expand the rich variety of programs that we are already offering. What happens inside is more important than the appearance on the outside. It's actually quite common for houses of worship to have a large meeting hall. There's nothing radical, controversial, or even unusual about it. A quick Google search turns up at least 37 churches in Manhattan with large meeting spaces dedicated to serving their communities. So I urge you to approve this certificate of appropriateness so St. Luke's can join its peer churches to better serve our West Village neighbors and all people everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Bruce Gorlick.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Gerlich. I am a New Yorker and a member of St. Luke in the Fields and serve on the vestry, the governing board of the church. I would like to highlight the positive construction activities that St. Luke in the Fields has undertaken to enhance the neighborhood. St. Luke's, in its history, has continued to add value to the community through additions to our block. Let me start with St. Luke's School. St. Luke's School is a positive creation of St. Luke's Church. We started the school and built the building. St. Luke's Garden is a positive contribution to the community. We created the garden and it is maintained not only by us, but by members of the wider community. 100 Barrow, developed in conjunction with Toll Brothers, has brought good neighbors into our community. We have recently renovated all our townhouses, creating safe and comfortable apartments that bring in more good neighbors to the community. In all these efforts, St. Luke's has consistently respected the architectural history of the neighborhood, incorporating into each project the character of the Greenwich Village Historic District. I firmly believe that this mission building will continue the heritage of St. Luke's respectful construction activities, creating a space that will add value and benefit our community and the broader city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go to, and I think I had Mother Stacy on my list for some reason. I don't think Mother Stacy needs to testify. Is that correct, Chanel?
That is correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
Thank you.
apologize for that.
No worries, no worries.
All right, so the next four should be in the room according to my list. Jessica Schulte, Melanie Clark, Cameron Nielsen, and Mark Bodwin.
Okay. Please.
If you could to the table.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to hear from me. I'm a longtime resident of the West Village, and I have 2 young children, and we live on the diagonal corner from this block. I wanted to highlight the architectural incompatibility of the building. Both the materials and the design seem really out of touch with the West Village and the neighborhood that I live in and love. I also want to highlight that there is no talk of preserving open space, which runs at a huge premium in New York City. This is the wrong location for this building. I agree that the West Village needs more programming, but this should be built on the original mission site if it is so critical. The plans have also kept changing depending on the audience. And tonight's audience, we're actually meant to be talking about the architecture, but we have heard a lot about the programming. I would encourage that this actually go to a broader audience and be heard in front of the Human Services Subcommittee, because there's been a lot of misinformation about the programming of this building. We've heard at some points that it is for wedding receptions. We've heard at some points that there is a 12-step program going into it. I'd also like to ask, what kind of programming doesn't need a window? I have young children and they absolutely need windows. So the idea that Mother Stacy just proposed that young children wouldn't need windows seems out of touch with what young children actually need. I'd also like to mention that the school does lease the space from the church. So it is not fair that Mother Stacy has asked them for a written statement to be produced this evening. She is their landlord. And so I don't think that that's fair and should be struck from the conversation here. Lastly, I'd just like to ask, why are we prioritizing a new building over a longstanding play space that has served generations? And why is the church no longer supporting the GO program or other proven programs that are already running in the neighborhood? St. Luke's School actually funds the GO program now. Why is the church no longer funding that? And will Mother Stacy steward the project for the next 10 to 15 years? Or will leadership change the direction going forward? Thank you so much for listening to me, and I appreciate all of your time.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your questions are not landmarks matters, and I'm going to speak about how
I have a question for her. What did you say? What were you suggesting be struck from the record specifically?
That the school, Mother Stacy referenced a statement that the school gave her. It seems really out of context and unfair that a landlord would ask their tenant to make a statement on their behalf, because a landlord is in a position of power. A tenant is not.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Eugene, have we gone into the regular public session group?
Yes, we have.
Is Dana not here?
Dana actually said that she is listening as a participant and did not have any planned testimony.
Okay,
tonight.
if she didn't want to speak, that's fine. I just wasn't aware of it. Okay.
Yes, so Melanie Clark.
So in the interest of not beating a dead horse, to use an appropriate phrase, I suppose, I don't want to go into everything we don't like about the construction of this building, because there were a lot of people in this room and online who echoed the sentiments that I, along with many other community members, have already shared about the construction being incongruent with the block and the history of the West Village. This corner has been deliberately kept open for 70 years, serving children citywide, in addition to children in our own neighborhood. It is integral to the character of the block and central to the very meaning of St. Luke in the Fields. The church's historic mission was to provide the community with open space. From the church website, quote, "We create Jesus's embrace through, among other things, the sanctuary of our church and gardens." The current proposed design of the structure is far larger than what was initially shared in 2007, and it has changed several times over the past year alone. Changes this significant, we presume, would demand new review and not a rushed approval. Other appropriate and proposed locations have been suggested or inquired about and have been met with insufficient explanation as to why they were not being considered. It should also be noted that the additional programming and outreach suggested by the church would raise significant public safety concerns for community residents, businesses, patrons, and the many children attending the 4 public and private schools, all located within blocks of this proposed building. We feel the church has not done enough due diligence to outline for community members why an approximately $12 million spend on a building is needed, rather than using those funds to continue or enhance their current community outreach or to provide support to other proven programs in the neighborhood already serving the population. We respectfully request that Community Board 2 hold this proposal until the Human Services Subcommittee can review and discuss programming, long-term use, and neighborhood safety. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I know it's a time constraint for everyone. And anyway, that's all I have to say.
What was your name again?
Melanie Clark. You're Brian, right?
I would remind those giving testimony of what I said at the beginning of the meeting, that the purpose of this meeting is to understand about the appropriateness of the building. We have plenty of background about what the programming is and other aspects of the reasons for it, but we will only be able to consider what the building is and if it's appropriate. Thank you.
Next. Who's next, Eugene?
Brent Nielsen.
Thank you, Chair and members of the CB2 Landmarks Committee. Good evening, I'm Cameron Nielsen, an architectural photographer and village resident for nearly 20 years. Much has been said about this mission's building design, but what's missing is the story of the lot itself, the history that shows why it must remain open. This space has been open since 1955, when the church deliberately demolished the 1820s townhouses to create a playground. It was improved in 1993 and again in 2020. For 70 uninterrupted years, this corner has remained exactly as it should: open, permeable, and woven into the shared streetscape. In our historic district, the question isn't simply whether this design is appropriate, it's whether this space should be built on at all. The answer is clear: it should remain open. The bond between St. Luke's and this neighborhood runs deep. When fire gutted the church in 1981, neighbors rallied, donated time, resources, and funds. 2 days after the fire, the New York Times wrote, though only 150 people actually belonged to St. Luke's, it turned out that St. Luke's belonged to everyone who'd ever walked down Hudson Street. That spirit endures today with over 2,000 signatures opposing this plan, a clear call to the board must heed. Unlike the church's 100 Barrow Street project, which replaced an unused parking lot, this corner is alive. Children use it every day. It contributes visually, spatially, culturally, even acoustically. To enclose it with a one-story, ground floor, daylight basement, an inward-facing mass that erases what makes this space meaningful is a tragedy. Treating a 2007 approval as a mandate in 2025 ignores 2 decades in shifting context, evolving priorities, and preservation philosophy. Every morning, St. Luke's bells ring across this open space, a call to community and reflection. If this lot is built over, those bells will echo instead inside a walled-off corner, signaling the church's inward turn away from the very community that has sustained it. Please don't let this decades-old plan justify erasing one of the last open community-defining corners of the West Village. architecture isn't about honoring the spaces. I'm sorry, architecture isn't about building. It's about honoring the spaces we choose not to fill.
Thank
Honor
you.
the history, protect the space, deny its appropriate to build. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Mark Bodwin.
Hi there. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak and offer feedback. My name is Mark Bodwin. My wife Julia and I have been parishioners at St. Luke's for over 27 years. Both of our children were christened at St. Luke's and attended the school. I was a member of the St. Luke's Board of Trustees for over 11 years. The proposed St. Luke's Center is a poorly executed site and building plan, and I would strongly recommend its rejection by the committee for the following reasons. The siting of the structure fails to successfully engage this historical site. If implemented, this would make a mockery of the term "in the fields," as it would in essence be a grab of the last largest open parcel on the block. The structure itself makes little effort to engage with the block, and instead appears to be at best purposefully innocuous. It's sad to see such an important corner of this historical block burdened with such a drab structure, hiding behind the existing brick wall. It's shameful, actually, creating a blank wall on Christopher Street. There are other options for this program on this block that would not require the loss of this valuable open space. A review of the block site plan from before the 1981 fire suggests that the church could rebuild its parish hall at its former location with the inclusion of a basement. The church currently controls 10 townhouses on the block, many of which have open backyards that could be repurposed for this program. The vestry of the church needs to go back to the drawing board. This is a very bad plan and does not reflect the importance that open space plays on the block and for the community. To see this plan implemented would be a significant loss to the historical nature of the district and the block, and would only further separate residents and parishioners of this community from its historical legacy and the rich history of the block. Thank you.
Thank you. The next four speakers, and they should also be in person as well. Jenny Miller, Joshua Wexler, and Scott Schulte. I'm sorry, that's three speakers. And then we'll go to Jenny Miller? No?
Jenny Miller, Zoom?
Josh Wexler? Or,
yes.
All right, is there a Jenny Miller on Zoom?
Yes. Hi. Sorry. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Glitch there. Okay. Hi. Thank you for holding this this meeting. My name is Jenny Dutton. I have lived within 2 blocks of this corner for the last 15 years. And I just want to say, firstly, I'm so grateful to St. Luke's Church, the community, and all of the work and programs that the church has put on for decades and centuries. And while I may have many questions regarding the programs that are needed for the community, I'm still waiting for the church to clarify some of those questions. I know that that's not what's happening at this meeting today. So what I would like to discuss, since I think most of us can agree that the church is a wonderful neighbor, this to me seems like a very rushed plan. This building is, the design does not meet the grandness of the church. It is, the Christopher Street side is dire looking. It looks like a shipping container. And this important historical and vibrant community that the church has built over so many decades deserved better than this design. And I think it should be rejected. Thank you.
Joshua Wexler online.
Okay, Eugene, Joshua Wexler is not online.
Okay. How about Scott Schulte? Is there
Here.
Scott Schulte in the
Good
room?
evening.
Okay, once
Hi.
again, the name.
Scott Schulte, SCHULTE.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, I'm good. Good evening, Chairman Spence, Board.
What?
Okay. Thank you all for having me. I certainly am not here to belabor the point of some of my fellow colleagues. I am a longtime West Village resident. I also have young children in the neighborhood. And to me, when I break this down, it's really a story of all this time. I support the cause, just not in my backyard. Now, the caveat there being, I actually do want it in my backyard. There is a place for it in my backyard. I just don't think that the appropriate place is on the corner adjacent to two schools, excuse me. I think that as has been mentioned by a lot of the former speakers, it has been very rushed, and I hate to be such a cynic, but I'm a New Yorker after all. I'm questioning why there aren't better locations that we know are available on I believe James from BK&K said it's an acre by acre with multiple tax lots. The cynic in me says, why not put it by the residential housing? Probably because that impacts rental prices and property prices. Why not put it on the very big lot behind Mother Stacy's townhouse? Probably because she doesn't want to look at a shipping container in her backyard. And so I hate to say that, but equally, I just live under the notion that I too would like more space in life. I too would like to have.
So I have to say that personal attacks is not something that we.
No, sir. And that was by no means a personal attack, sir. I'm just simply stating that I would like more space for myself as well. And if that meant a basement, but that I couldn't afford in the basement, I can't imagine, sir, that I could come to you and beg favor for you in being able to cut costs and not align what I would like to build with the theme of the West Village. I wouldn't have the means for it. And I think that's equally the situation here, which is why the renderings for the church have changed so many times. And I think the plans that we have continued to see are always varying. They seemingly differ, probably as we try to bring, as the costs are looking to come down. And I just don't think that the West Village should pay the price in permanency for leniency here about a lack of funding and a lack of an ability to build a basement or otherwise, because once the structure's up, it's up. There's no taking it back. And that will be what people think about as the West Village from now until the West Village is something different. Yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I will now move to speakers that have registered beforehand that are on Zoom. So again, the next four names, and we'll promote you as we go along. David Watson, Nandini Naik, Dylan Spencer Kenny, and Sonia Berlin. So if you give me one moment to promote all of you.
Who's up, Eugene?
All right, so first will be David Watson.
David Watson declined to be promoted.
Allowed to talk, maybe?
David Watson declined, Eugene.
Okay, David, I'm gonna allow you to speak. So you can do it this way instead of rejoining as a participant. David?
Maybe we go on to the next speaker.
All right, why don't we move on to the next person? Nandini Naik.
Hi.
I'm mispronouncing your name.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nandini Naik. My daughter is currently at St. Luke's School, We've heard today from a lot of parishioners talking about, the benefits of the church, the benefits of the program. I think we're conflating two disparate things. There's a lot of comments going on about the church at large, and I absolutely agree that the church has benefited the community and its parishioners deeply. They also have a great relationship with our school, and the programs that they offer are wonderful. I do not oppose the church itself. I'm also not opposing the church building this building. By all means, I agree that a big building so that the church can be at par with its peers seems justifiable. What I'm opposing today most vehemently is the location of this building. This does not seem to be the right place. It is taking up way too much of this open corner that people have pointed out is very rare in New York City. So we really ask the committee to please not take away this corner from us, to not take away our play space, leave it as it is. Please find an alternate location for the building and for these programs to continue. We do not think this building is appropriate, and we strongly request CB2 to hold off on any action until the Human Service Subcommittee also reviews it. We really hope that you will be able to take a considered decision after great discernment and great time spent thinking about it, and make one with an intentional decision where you arrive at it with everyone's points of views. I don't see how much time I have left, but I thank you all for for listening, and thank you for allowing us this time to speak against this current location and current building.
Thank you. Your timing was perfect. That was right at 2 minutes. Okay, next we have Dylan.
Yes.
Beginning.
Yes. Hi, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I would like to start by saying I am in full support. And I would like to say that my name is Dylan Spencer Kenny. I was born in 1981. I was raised on Leroy Street. I was baptized in the gymnasium of St. Luke's in the same year that the fire was where the original parish hall was destroyed. I am the children you guys are all speaking about. I attended PS3. I attended the Little Red Schoolhouse. I grew up in the 80s during the height of the AIDS crisis, when St. Luke's was one of the only places offering dignity and refuge. This is the spirit and the compassion of the church, but this is also the West Village. The building is not a luxury. This is a continuation of service. So for people that have been arguing about the streetscape and the character of our neighborhood, please be aware that long before you moved to the West Village, compassion was the character of this neighborhood. The West Village I know and I love, and also the historic developments, stand with the vulnerable, not against them. So when we hear rhetoric that is basically dismantling and tearing down the concept that the building is not of status, is because it is not about status. It is rooted in service. So please reflect on that. It is designed within a reasonable budget. This is not glamour. This does stay fully in line with the West Village historic preservation rules. And that is what this committee is here to decide. Not whether they think it's glamorous or not whether they think that it's rushed. It is a modest and thoughtful restoration. And if we allow the church to continue doing the work that it is already doing with care and integrity and openness to the community, that is the West Village. So I really urge you to reject that fear rhetoric of glamour, because I am not okay with pretending that the whitewashing and the privilege takes more precedence than caring about community. And please do not confuse this with gentrification. So I respectfully ask the committee to consider your own weaknesses as you think about the historic narrative. Think about it not in glamour, but also remember last week you allowed a business to decorate their streets with flowers. So are we really going to question a modest mission-based service to meet the service of our community? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sonia Berlin, although I haven't seen her online. I'm going to ask if she's in the room.
Can you hear me?
Promoted. There we go. She's there.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So I just wanted to first comment on the previous commenter's points, because this is the landmarks meeting, as I am aware, and I think that we should be talking about the design and how well it does or doesn't fit into the West Village. The church has stewarded this block, as we all know, for over 2 centuries, and they've taken multiple steps to ensure their survival, from remodeling the townhouses, working with the school to build 2 additional floors, and building the condo building on the corner. The space that we're talking about today has been cleared also, as other people have mentioned, since 1955. So that's 70 years. That was done intentionally, and that was done consistently with the federal style design of the church and the entire block, and the design that is symmetrical on both sides of the church, with the walls on the ends and 3 townhouses on each side. While I certainly support the church's mission, it does not seem like this building is really necessary to continue that. And I, similarly to other people, call for a discussion on this topic with the Human Services Committee, because it keeps coming up on both people who favor the building as well as those who oppose the programming topics. So I strongly support opposition to this building, and I strongly support further discussion in the Human Services Committee, which I feel is where a lot of these discussions belong. The building is not in fitting with the neighborhood. The materials are not fitting with the neighborhood, and we should just outright reject this. And barring that, we should continue this discussion further and certainly not approve this plan. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I will get the next 4 names up. So Peter Castro, Courtney Stern.
Right.
Sorry. Okay, can someone move, please? All right, so Peter Castro, Courtney Stern, Sabrina Rezi, and Oleg Rezi. So Peter Castro, if you would like to.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We've talked a lot about aesthetics and design, and I get all that. But as a parent who goes to that school 5 days a week to pick up my 2 8-year-old twin boys, who will be 3rd graders next year, I just want to put in everybody's mind the absolute specialness and beauty of what dozens of kids sound like when they're extremely happy, squealing with delight. And, you know, sound is as much a part of this community as aesthetics and as bricks. And I just want to encourage everybody who's listening to remember the importance of what we're talking about. We're all staring at glass screens right now on a Zoom call, but there's something very special about what happens at St. Luke's. And it's about being in that space. And, you know, I agree that this mission should have another place, but these kids have as much a right of you know, happiness as anybody else who benefits from this mission. And these kids are really, really important to this community. I urge you to stand outside of that fence, or if you're not part of the school, listen to the sounds of those kids and tell me with a straight face that they don't add a lot to this beautiful community. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. The next is Courtney Stern. could, yes. So I believe Courtney Storms.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me? I have trouble with technology.
Yes,
Can you hear
we
me?
can hear you.
I want to speak on behalf of the architecture itself. I was a St. Luke's parent, and I've lived in the neighborhood for 20 years. And I want to go back because I think some of the points that Mr. Pape made at the beginning have been lost. And that is that I think that the historical references for this building are really a stretch. I do not think that this building is an appropriate fit within the neighborhood. I think that the church has an absolute right and need to build a structure that serves their purposes. I think that the idea that we are developing another part of this block when we've developed, now there's been a huge building on the southwest corner that's been developed in 100 Barrow Street. All of the townhouses have been redeveloped, and we have, and now we're developing yet another corner. It seems to me that in all this planning, we could have looked at some point at developing 2 of the townhouses to serve this purpose. We could have looking at where the original parish house was. We could look at renovating the current school auditorium. There is so much opportunity within that auditorium for a renovation that serves everyone's needs. I just think there's so many other opportunities to serve the community. And ultimately, I think that this design falls short of what we would be willing to approve through landmarks if this was not a house of worship that we were talking about. If this were just a regular restaurant, a building, any other person who came in front of landmarks, this would be rejected. So I think we should go back to the drawing board and look at how we can work out more space with what we've got without developing. We need to redevelop what we've got, not add more building to the West Village. And I just want to thank everybody who volunteers their time on CB2. This is a kind of a thankless job, and I really, really appreciate all of you looking out for our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much for speaking.
May I say, Eugene?
Yes, go ahead.
The landmarks regulations and evaluations are not exempt from churches, and in particular from buildings that are not part of the sanctuary building. So we'll be treating this as a building in the community for its appropriateness. Thank you, Eugene.
All right, great. Next is Sabrina Rezi and Oleg Rezi. I saw Sabrina Rezi earlier, but I think they may have disconnected.
We're all on the same.
Okay.
Can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I think we can all go in under 2 minutes. We've heard from so many people already tonight. I'm Sabrina Rezi. I just want to thank Chair Chenault and the whole Landmarks and CB2 committee for being here and taking your time this evening. 2 of our children, Olivia, who's here with us tonight, and Jocko, they're 6 and 7, attend St. Luke's. I just want to say we adamantly oppose the construction of this building, astutely described by others as a prison and an equipment shed. And it's completely against the aesthetic of the beautiful historic West Village. A mission, no matter how well-intentioned, increases foot traffic from vulnerable adult populations, some of whom might struggle with addiction or untreated mental illness. This is not compatible with a secure space for children as young as 3. The construction will also expose these children to noise, dust, and airborne chemicals that can worsen asthma and other respiratory issues. It's a safety hazard not meant for play and learning. There are other spaces, as we've already heard, better suited for serving unhoused adults, places that don't compromise child safety or childhood itself. We want to stay within our 2 minutes, but I wanted to give my daughter Olivia, who's a child at St. Luke's, the chance to also thank you all and just say 1 or 2 sentences about what she thinks about the plan.
Thank you, Landmarks Chair and committee. I love playing on our playground every day with my friends. We climb, run, and laugh there. I feel safe and happy. I don't want to lose it. I think it's a bad idea to put a mission building because other kids use this place and they play there and they like it. Open space is important for St. Luke kids like me.
And if you guys don't mind, I'm just, since we're combined, I'm Oleg Rezi, and I object to this poorly thought out, ill-advised, dangerous eyesore that will permanently alter the aesthetic of the neighborhood while endangering the thousands of small children attending the 2 schools that would abut this monstrosity. Most appropriately described by Mother Stacy and subcommittee members as a light-filled, gloomy, high-end prison. I'm firmly against this proposed reimagining and strongly urge the subcommittee to hit the brakes, to responsibly consider the consequences of rushing to any decision. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next 4, actually next 3 on my list, Aiden Ko, Seamus Henchy, and then Julie Nelson.
Here, read.
So Aiden, I'm promoting you to our panelist.
Aiden Murphy, I'm not here to speak, I'm here to listen.
Oh, okay.
Might be another Aiden though.
All right. Seamus Henchy.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. So I have been working for both the church and the school over the past 15 years now, almost, on various capital projects, including the 2-story addition on the school, which was about 18,500 square feet. And worked with the church on renovating the townhouses over the last several years. And a lot has been said about open space. I'm the principal of a project management firm that has done more than a dozen private school projects throughout the city over the past 35, 40 years. And there is no school that I know that I have worked on or are familiar with that has the amount of open space that this school has. And this corner is not an open space in the sense that it's already cordoned off, and there is no sense of it being an open space. By the way, when we added the 2 floors on top of the school, a subsequent project was to create an outdoor play space on top of that 18,000 square foot addition to the school, which is a rooftop playground. I think this block has more open space than any block that I know, and I've worked in the city for over 40 years. I don't know of any other block who's got as much open space. And I support the project. Some of the comments on the architecture, I think, we would certainly consider as suggestions. But I think the reality of what the work that this church does it cannot be lost in discussions about architecture. The mission of the church is really what's driving this. And discussions have been raised earlier about using the outdoor space in the middle of the block. Again, that space is very much reduced from the amount of space that's needed for this program. One of the last speakers talked about danger to the health of residents and children at the school. When we built the school addition over 3 school years, we did it entirely within the school building, and we did it in such a way that it was safe and secure, and there were no incidents. This building is completely separate from the school and will follow all of the local requirements and local laws as we continue to, go through the public process.
Thank you,
and,
Shanice.
and build it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Iden Co. All right, Iden Co., if you would like to speak, go ahead. Okay. Looks like they're not speaking. Okay. All right, I'm going to circle back to one of the names from before that did not speak when they were called on David Watson. You'd still like to speak? Go ahead. David Watson. Okay, and then the other last name I have on the list of people that signed up ahead of time is Julie Nelson. I realize Julie Nelson is also a presenter, so I'm not sure if that was a
That's
mistake
a
or not.
repeat of the presenters list, so I don't have any
okay.
further statement to make at this time.
Thank you. All right, and so that concludes the list of speakers that signed up ahead of time. If there are any speakers that would like to speak that are currently online or in the room.
I would like to just emphasize, as I said earlier, when I read the statement that the school requested that I make, as was observed by one of the school parents, I believe, we do have a close working relationship that is ongoing. And I do just want to restate for probably the second or third time, but just to restate, clarifying for the record, that we appreciate and are sensitive to the loss of space that the church is currently making available free of charge to the school for use as a playground. We appreciate that that is a loss for the school. And to that end, we are working very closely with school leadership. I meet with Tracy Fedonchik, head of school, every week, and there are often intervening meetings as well with other leaders and the school landscape architects, as we are actively working with them to reimagine the current outdoor spaces and explore the possibility of making additional space interior to the block available to the school for child-friendly play space. And if and when that engagement and exploration is ready for prime time, then we will share it. Thank you.
Thank you. So Chenault, if you'd like, we can go ahead and go to speakers that did not sign up ahead of time. Looks like there's several.
Everyone who has signed up to speak has spoken, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Valerie, I looked at the chat. You had something about that. It looked like everything had been covered. Is there something that you want to put in the record from there?
In the chat, it was just the Q&A questions, but my computer just shut off, so I can't.
Okay, so we feel that
I can do it during business session. I just can't read it. I don't have a mouse for there. Can't see what's on
Okay,
there.
Mark,
So if you want to read them, I think the cost is very much related to what is being proposed here. It's also been publicly stated on a website or whatnot, so I don't know why.
We're losing you. Can you get to a mic?
Yeah, I know, because I need to plug in my laptop.
I believe it was concluded and we're now ready for the, are you all okay in the room? That we're all ready for the business session. Remind everyone that,
There's people with their hands up, Mark is saying. Chenault.
Two that haven't been called.
I can't hear. Can you speak to a mic? What are you saying?
There are two people with their hands raised. That's what Mark just said. I can't see because I'm just booting up my laptop again. So maybe Eugene, can you check in with?
Do you
Yes,
feel
it's
you've
Chenault.
exhausted the list?
There
are
are just
three names.
two extra names. One is actually
People who've spoken
one is someone that's
before.
already spoken. But there are two speakers, Damian Arnold and Karen Grubsky Esteves, that did not sign up ahead of time.
Come in. I'm sorry, I had an interruption.
Sorry. So there are two
Is there
speakers
someone
that
who's
did not.
spoken who wishes to speak? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, so there are two speakers, Damian Arnold and Karen Grubsky.
And are these the last people who have not spoken who wish to speak?
There's a third speaker who has her hand raised, but they spoke before, Dylan
Okay,
Spencer.
anyone who spoke before may not speak again. If someone has not spoken and has signed up, they may speak.
Great.
Maybe just leftover hands. So if there's a person who has not spoken who has signed up to speak.
It sounds like there are two people.
Eugene, can you see what you see?
Grubsky, if you could speak, if you're.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So I live across the street. I live on the corner of Barrow and Hudson for 20 years. I was married at St. Luke's Garden. My son attended PS3 for primary school. We saved, like scrimped, saved and borrowed and begged so he could attend St. Luke's Middle School. I'm a Christian. I'm so invested in this community. You have no idea. And I support all of the community service. I don't understand why the cost of this building is not transparent from the church and this meeting. And we need people, and I have people sending me articles from the Post, which I don't read. And I don't understand why they're taking away the little outdoor space for children that exists in this neighborhood and city. Other than the West Side Highway, I get it, you know, we're lucky. And I wish it wasn't just for students at St. Luke's. I wish that my kid, when he was at PS3, could have used that outdoor space, but he couldn't. So if someone was coming to me and saying the space is open to every child in the neighborhood, oh my God, like amazing. Someone mentioned 4 schools, I think, on this meeting. There's 4 schools in a 1-block radius of this space that they want to build a building on. I'm sorry. Like, I can't understand with all the empty space and post-COVID that money in the millions, because I don't know exactly what this is costing.
You have a timer going?
I can't imagine that, you know, it couldn't be used more wisely than a 1-story building where we're going to look at pictures from the census many years from now, like, oh, a playground once was here, but now there's this building. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is Jillian.
Hi there, thank you. I appreciate all the time that this committee has taken to consider both sides of both opinions on both sides of this issue. I would like to bring a few points to everyone's attention. This block, prior to the Federalist townhouses that existed here, there was open space that was designated by the Trinity Church for this to be land used to provide relief from the yellow fever epidemic, hence the name In the Fields. So if we go back far beyond, you know, the 50s, the 30s that were referenced by the church previously, the original intent of this corner was to have open space. And I will say that the architecture that has been proposed here is quite concerning. As a traditionalist and someone who loves history, there is no reference to the Federalist architecture of the community or this block. I'm insulted by the shipping container that has been proposed here and the little bit of ivy that is decorating the side of the building. Also, the trees above the building, I will note, would no longer be there. There are historic trees that would need to be torn down in order to make this building possible. The original mission building was on the other side of the church and is open field space plentifully available to build a new building. And I would suggest that this new mission building be located there. The school supports the mission building, but the location of the mission building is very important, and we need to make sure that it's located in a space that's appropriate for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Chenault, so that concludes the list of speakers for the public session.
All right, thank you. Eugene, could you take off of participants all the people who are not on the committee? I think it confuses the screen somewhat and the people observing.
Yes, Mark can do it.
I'll do it. You guys.
Okay, I believe it's understood that we're having now the business session and that only members of the committee may speak. We may have a question for the applicants if they are willing to stay on. And if we do, we'll put it forward.
Of course, we're willing to stay on, so.
Oh, thank you. I want to go to some of the points made first. The question of the siting of the building and the siting, where it is, and the taking of outdoor space, which was answered several times, that it's to be compensated for in some ways. Are there comments on that?
On the open space being taken away?
But the thing was the fact that it's on the corner and that it's being built in open space came up. The primary there were two objections to that. One was that it's open space, and the other was that it's depriving the school of outdoor space. And certainly the school question was answered.
Can I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Is
Happy.
the landlord, which is the church, they have a right to build on their land, do they not?
No,
I mean,
this is church land, and the school uses it. And
yeah, but I mean, again, this is New York, and if you own the land and you can build on it, I'm just wondering where does that take us?
I mean, it's as of right.
What I want to do is to dispose of that.
I see. Okay.
If the committee if we're agreed that there is that it is not a landmarks consideration whether the site can be built upon, we can go on to the building. And
Okay.
I think we agree that a building can be built.
Correct.
It's a matter of regulation, not a matter of preference. Brian mentioned the absence of a basement, which seemed to be addressed. Do you have further considerations of the amount of space in the building, Brian?
No, I realized that question of a basement or no basement is not the purview of the landmarks. Just seemed like a missed
And not
opportunity.
practical, apparently, with the tube going beside it. So we're now, as I understand it, left with the building itself and the design of the building and the appropriateness. Are there any other aspects of the application that anyone wants to address? We heard a great deal of testimony, and frankly, very little of it was about the building. But what was about the building was objection to its design. So that's what's before us and what's normally before us. could people comment on the Hudson Street side?
Oh, I think it's awful. You can't, to reproduce a blank brick wall and say that somehow that is balancing the site is, well, I just find it to be so disappointing. Like I say, without any real windows, without any lighting for the street or nothing at all welcoming. So I don't find
Would
any.
you have this view if it weren't being torn down and rebuilt, which I didn't understand from the.
It's meaningless because it's not a historic wall. It's not a part of the landmark at all. It was just built after the townhouses got torn down. That's all. It has no meaning.
So it dates from, that's before designation. So probably if it were after designation, the townhouses would have been torn down.
Relatively
So it's your view that if the wall is going to be referenced, that's one thing, but having it as a foreboding wall is your objection. Am I right?
Having a blank wall is my objection.
Do other people have comments about the wall?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fundamentally out of step with the architectural character. It's just not, it just looks more like it's not integrated into the streetscape.
Anita?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be rebuilt. I mean, if it was, I don't know if it will really get pull that off, that it has the authenticness. But there is something very inhospitable in that you don't even get a little peek of something. You know, I think there's a little bit of play that's missing here. It's very serious and close, and having something open doesn't mean lack of privacy. There are many techniques that architecturally can be used, whether it's the elevation of the windows or whatever. But they have those bricked in arches, which I thought that was going to get opened up. And I thought that could be kind of interesting.
So Chanel, you mentioned the what looks like clear story above the brick wall, which is not clear story at all. It is just a more blank wall.
Yeah, that too. It looks from a distance like that whole elevation has a clear story, but in fact, it's only right by the office, I guess. I don't know. Did we have close-up drawings of this? I don't know. It might be easier to see what is open and closed.
There are in the I'm looking at the.
There were some details.
There's an elevation. I can't see the page number.
Yeah, there was a detail page where they show that.
Okay.
Page 3 of the second section is an elevation, and it shows the proportion.
But there's some of it's glass, but most of it's this terracotta.
There's glass directly above the door, and not
the left.
Halfway to the south, and then the rest is terracotta, and all the way from over the central door to Christopher Street is terracotta. So
the use of the glazed terracotta, I don't know where the camera's catching me here, right here. Although I want to look at you, I guess I could look on my laptop at the Zoom. The glazed terracotta panels in the chimichurri green and black forest green, I think, are the boldest and the most debatable element here. These are glossy materials that evoke more of a college campus. a train station or an industrial site. See, I still want to look here, but the camera's here. And I don't see them, they do not reflect any known precedent to my knowledge in the village where a muted brick, stone, and cast iron predominate. It's at the high sheen, it's unconventional tone. It feels like more of an experimental surface treatment than a contextual choice with the neighborhood.
Well, it's the perpetual thing of a new building trying to look like something new. And the key word is the one that always comes up of, is the new thing harmonious with the immediate streetscape and the neighborhood and the district? What we have that's not shown in the elevation is we have townhouses that go up against it. So it and the present wall is, if not historic, is somehow flows from the townhouses, and this introduces a whole new idea there.
It's very serious too, by the way. And I don't know, I know it's serious business going on in here, but I don't think the building needs to be quite so, you know, serious and formidable and impenetrable. So even though it's illuminated from the top, which is a beautiful thing, but you know, the street becomes inhospitable. It's not the interior, because I think that could be quite beautiful, but it's walking along the street and having a surface that, you know, there's some old tried and true techniques in architecture that is prevalent in the West Village. And that would be some kind of a rhythm of the windows, or some division of a long horizontal wall, divided up maybe by columns. So there's very little happening except this very strong and maybe somber wall. I do think the rain screen materials can be very beautiful, especially if they're like a raku treatment, you know, could be like something referencing a garden, but that would be pretty special, you know. It's not a uniform, not uniform color or material.
When I first saw it, I said it looks like a building to either keep people in or keep people out, and that doesn't seem to express a welcoming community center. It's because it's an unrelieved wall, and not even an articulated wall that's decorative is probably an ugly word, but that has character to it.
It's a back of house. This is what I'm very confused about, is if the floor plan were flipped, for example, you now would have all the kitchen and the service and all of that sort of away from the prominent corner and that wall, where, you know, you can have a lot of different ways of treating it. It frees you up rather than putting the back of house in the front.
Same goes for the utilities that are along the Hudson Street wall.
That's right, exactly right. It would allow more flexibility in designing that wall. I don't think it should reflect that there's a service door on that corner. I think that's a very odd placement when you're building a new building. It would be better if it had, maybe that's the office, or I don't know. I'm not going to suggest it, but it could be, if it were flipped around a little bit, you could have a lot more fun and with opportunities is what I'm trying to say, design opportunities on the Christopher Street.
Are we talking about Christopher Street now?
No, we haven't finished. Let's do Hudson Street.
Okay, yeah.
And by the way, just on that topic though, on Hudson Street, a lot of comments were made about wanting to have privacy. I tell you, there's nothing more delightful than walking by the new addition to Village Community School and looking in, not just for the gymnasium in the lower level, but on the corner there of the building is some kind of like a workshop, a woodworking shop, a pottery, something like that.
And that's very inviting and
very. I mean, there's no need to hide those school activities.
It just seems like the whole building is conceived around privacy when curtains exist.
Or you don't have to have windows at face level. You can have them higher up. That works. A clear story works beautifully. You know, there may be reasons why you don't want to be able to look in and identify people.
Yeah.
That's true. Or children, or so many activities that are private, more private oriented. But I don't think a solid wall with only top illumination in this city, in this location. You know, there are other places it could be just perfect, but here you have such a lively streetscape. I mean, you know, that block is so busy. It would be nice to make it a little friendlier.
Then do we want to make a suggestion about the wall? That it be more open, more articulated, more historically informed?
The brick wall?
Yeah,
all that.
And above all, pierced.
Well, I mean, the whole facade. I mean, it needs to be redesigned, period. It's unacceptable the way it's presented. The concept is off. So I think all the things you said, Chanel, would go on that
what
list.
we will not do is redesign it.
That's
No, we should call out the qualities we're looking for as opposed to the solutions.
Exactly. So the objectionable qualities are its forebodingness, and hand in hand with that of it, it blocks the world out and us from enjoying the building, the fortress-like.
Yeah, there's no life. There's no life. It's sort of like in our community, we don't allow commercial spaces like a drugstore or whatever to completely plaster the windows shut with advertising. You have to have a glimpse, whether it's of the ceiling or something that allows the building to be, you know, engaging with the street. You don't just block it right off. It's just too harsh. I don't know if we're talking about the whole building. I mean, we're only got two facades here, right? So the lack of the odd shaped windows, there's no reference for me on the windows that they did choose to put on Christopher Street. They're sort of long and rectangular and not really a dimension that I can reference somewhere else except to maybe a big commercial building. And that there's no rhythm to it. It's sort of service, and then there's a couple of windows, and then there's an exit. That's not, that could be evolved into something more interesting.
And do we see the terracotta then as an inappropriate material for the building at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Or because of its lack of historic reference or?
Yeah, there's no precedent for it. I didn't see that point made.
I will say the one place I've seen this type of material used, and I didn't expect to like it. I probably spoke out against it. And then when it was built, I thought it was quite beautiful, which is in NoHo. And it's the red building on Bond and Lafayette. And it actually does reference the architecture, but you wouldn't, it was hard to see. So I'm trying not to be too harsh on the rain screen.
And that's a vastly different neighborhood.
It is. It is.
I mean,
It's also a terracotta color, I might add, so it references brick, that particular building, which maybe if the color were different, it could work.
And I would like to say add to this that it doesn't continue the streetscape, it simply changes it.
Yeah.
The way that just the plain wall that was there didn't. It looked like an area of the same place that was walled off. But
it's an opportunity to make something, a little more interesting. It's very, very harsh and very industrial. And even though I think it probably will look better than that, but it has a container quality, which we're so used to seeing right now.
We'll get to on Christopher Street.
Are we going to Christopher now or no?
Yeah, we're on Christopher.
Okay. It's a low slung institutional feel. It fails to reflect, let me look at the camera, it fails to reflect the architectural intimacy and variety that defines this side of the Greenwich Village Historic District. I think the facade, and Anita kind of referenced this earlier, on the other side of lacking a visual, I think this lacks a visual rhythm on Christopher. It doesn't relate to the historic district as presented. And while I understand
the district to the very house that's next door to the end of the wall.
Yeah, and a contextual design doesn't require a faux historicism, which I believe LPC looks down upon. But it does require, so it doesn't require a mimicry, but an interpretation. I think that this proposal stops short of a meaningful interpretation of context within the Greenwich Village Historic District as a whole, and specifically on the Christopher side.
Let's move on to the particulars of the Christopher side. That must be plate 4 if people are looking at this.
What are you asking for right now, Chanel?
I'm not giving up on. We'll come back to the front, but let's go to the Christopher Street side to continue our overall. I'm trying to find it. Oh, here we are. The back is there, and then the plate after that. It's confusing. The windows just seem to be random windows. They may have some meaning inside, but as far as rhythm and kind of windows they are, and the wall is unrelieved terracotta apart from the base, which was pointed out. Are we finding that terracotta all together is not acceptable?
I don't see any redeeming quality of it. The composition, not just the terracotta, obviously the choice of a nearly black granite base under the terracotta might be appropriate in some office building, but certainly it goes along with this foreboding look and really needs to be a lighter material.
And it's rarely used in things that are not big, like the Chen building kind of things.
Well, it's not used that much in New York City either, I don't think. I mean, more and more, but it's still not, it's not a historic, doesn't resemble anything historic, except metal, corrugated metal or something.
Right. That's exactly what it, certainly the drawing is, the elevation is not correct to make an interpretation, but one can imagine if that's in terracotta and with that unrelieved pattern. The okay, the windows. It's the random pattern. It's the windows themselves.
Mm-hmm. Also, the size, the proportion, the shape of them, I don't know, they're sort of their own thing. And we are a historic preservation group here, so we're looking to hang our hat on something that resembles the proportions of a window somewhere, not a new type.
I didn't find anything persuasive about Christopher Street being the back side of the building.
No,
The
it's not.
unimportant side of the building. It just didn't, there was nothing to justify it when, whatever the case of Barrow Street is, it's not a thoroughfare, and Christopher Street is. As I pointed out, it's sort of the missing cross street south of 14th Street.
Yeah, a lot of traffic.
It needs to be respected more.
Well, Christopher Street is the oldest street in that neighborhood. It existed, everything kind of was planned around Christopher Street. And so, right up to today, it's a busy street. There's a lot of traffic. Not only, as was pointed out by many people tonight, not only for just people walking around, but all those schools and all of those transportation hubs. We got PATH train within the block, immediately across the street. We have the schools across the street. We have
Hudson River Park.
Hudson River Park. That's where people, that's the path that people take to get down to Hudson River Park. I mean, it's just major, and it needs to be treated as a major facade.
And also to reflect, this is something that is so beloved, and the activities and the services are so incredible and have been for as long as I can remember, and I'm a village kid too, that it should reflect that hospitality that the church has towards the community and towards people who have oftentimes no place else that welcomes them. That is it doesn't feel very welcoming. And it is. It's an amazing place.
And the side is marginally less welcoming than the front. It looks like the wall existed as a solid wall on Christopher Street, and at some point windows were punched into it for some reason.
You think the arched openings were later? I think they were closed up.
No, I'm
But
talking about Christopher Street.
Oh, sorry.
When you
Okay.
look at it, because the placement of the windows and so forth, it looks like the same foreboding wall that was pierced with windows rather than something that was conceived with windows.
Yeah, yeah.
Am I saying that right?
I know, we like lintels. We like cornices. We like things that provide a little more information as to how a building is put together.
And it's hard to be harmonious if it's a different material, different windows, placed peculiarly.
Yeah, and also there's no structure expressed. I mean, that could help it too. If you just modulate the structure somehow and you pick up maybe on a 20-foot module or something that is common in New York City, rather than sort of a break halfway through the building, which I don't know what those dimensions are, but it's probably 30 feet. It's not 20 feet, which is what most lot sizes are, row houses are.
A modular rhythm, right? Is that what is that a way of saying it?
Yeah, I like that. Without going too flowery.
And then the back, the far end toward the west looks
Well,
apologetic rather than
I
continuous.
appreciate the bookend-ish part of it, you know, that the brick is reintroduced at the end so that at least there's some kind of a bookend. It doesn't go, you know, barely turns the corner and then a new material. And maybe something more could be done with the bookend, or maybe there should be brick piers all the way down that facade and then do whatever you want behind it. You know, that would be a strong element.
Well, with respect to the Christopher Street, with making it important, is a complete change of material at all appropriate?
Yeah.
Not the way it's presented, not this concept. Not appropriate.
Well, I think there are a lot of materials you can use, but just not so relentlessly. I mean, I don't know, there could be some very clever way of using it, but not in the way that is just like a enclosure. It would be more of an infill as opposed to an entire surface.
We're looking for some unity between Hudson Street and Christopher Street. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that I think some more brick would help. Brick piers, if you don't want to all brick, you know, that doesn't mean making a brick facade, but maybe with the brick piers, and then how you develop each bay, there's a little more flexibility because the piers are such a strong element. So it also makes it less horizontal. You know, it is a very horizontal building on both facades. But we really aren't supposed to redesign this, right?
So what we're after is it first of all be historic and inspiration, not Disneyland.
Yeah. At least referencing this historic
Reference, yeah, that's
architecture. Local architecture
and
too.
an interpretation of historic referencing is what.
Well, something like that.
And it was said that that was deliberately, I've forgotten the word that was used, but it was deliberately this way. We weren't missing some deep sunken historic reference.
No, it was a decision. It was a choice that was made.
Just a moment. I'm sorry, I just scrolled out of into the wrong place. I'm ready to continue. What would we want to say summing up the whole building? We're probably less concerned than usual with the back because it's completely obscured by a wall. It
Well,
seems
I think the building
front is pretty much the back so far as the concept of historical referencing, rhythm,
It's incongruous.
and a more open feeling is probably better to say architecturally than.
Mhm. It's also, I think it's the somberness. It's sort of, it's an impression without going into the details of how that comes about. It has an overall impression of being closed and not maybe the impression that it should give. You know, it feels closed off and not particularly public in any way. And that you know, there are many ways to solve that architecturally. It doesn't mean it has to have big windows with curtains. You know, I think that's the job, is to figure out how to do it without sacrificing privacy.
And the missing articulation would go a long way toward its not being so foreboding.
Mm-hmm. And also, it wouldn't have, I had a professor who used to call it tangentitis. In other words, you don't have one material and then you hit the next material just at one point, and then it becomes that material. Instead, you have more of an exchange. So it's not all happening at one point, like at that corner.
Yes, I find that probably the most disturbing thing, that it just boom. If it says as though that side's not supposed to be seen.
Yeah, it's right.
Water.
Like there's going to be another building there.
And
it's a party wall.
With particularly row houses that are on the corner, they're built with a different feeling about the side and the front.
Yeah.
And that's part of the vocabulary of row houses. But this is essentially, it's like the school. It's more like the school than the fence at the far end, which is not that vastly different. You're not shocked when you go around the corner of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And you are when you go around the corner of this.
Yeah.
And you're going on to a major street rather than a semi-side street.
Yeah, and you have trash right there. I don't know why that was a good chosen, I think that's just not a good setup.
You have what, that right there?
Trash, I mean, a service entrance, that's where the trash comes in and out and the supplies come in and out and, you know, the sort of the back of house activities
Right.
is on that corner.
And even if it were set from the corner as sort of an event down the way, clearly from the plan, it needs to be someplace near Hudson Street, but not the sort of, and because of the lack of other activity apart from the random windows, it becomes an important thing rather than a diminished.
Well, it's also permanent. Once you set it up like that, it will never change. So it's a very significant decision. It's not like, well, let's see how that goes. It's sort of like, that's it. So there's a water, all the utilities are there. I had the same thought when they were presenting. It's sort of like, well, what happened to a basement? Some of these things would normally happen there. And if they can't happen there, then they should happen someplace that isn't prominent.
There a lot of this is significant because of the decision where to place the activity room, and the play what's left over is the most prominent part of the plot.
That's right. And those are not usually highlighted, like the kitchen and the service area and I can't remember what else there is, but
That was behind one. I'd like to just review the general. We can say what is for the particular places, but in general, historic referencing with respect to materials, rhythm, the open feeling, the articulation, and the trash. Anita, that phrase, "I've lost," that was a very good phrase, unless I put it in the wrong place. Oh, continue the rhythm and style of the adjacent houses.
And you could also mention the scale of the windows. I mean, that again, these are just you add a few of these up and you can make it, you can knit it together, you know, but it has to reference something. The windows are such a punched openings that resemble something else in the neighborhood would be a quick way to start tying it together with the neighborhood.
Which comes along the line of historic referencing.
Yeah.
Sort of a sub.
That's correct.
I'd like to just review the phrases and so forth I've written down, and much of this will be preliminary or following, saying what we've said of these key points, of some details that matter. I'm getting there. They're in a very random order.
Oh, I think you've said it, Chanel. I mean, I think you've got it. I don't think we can.
Right, and I've got the details here that we mentioned on the front of the unrelieved wall and a few examples of what leads us to this conclusion, that
Mhm.
these overall things are, we normally do it in that order. And so what do we recommend finally? That a revised version that
Revise and resubmit.
Yeah.
Like shop drawings, revise and resubmit.
And we did make I think, a noble effort at the beginning to see, as we sometimes do, of tweaking suggestions, and we kept running against brick walls, so to speak.
You know, this is tweaking in a different way. You know, we are going deep into it, but you know, the building, the size, the shape is fine. You know, we don't need to make it bigger or smaller, but it's just how you
Right.
enclose
Everything
it.
I see written is facade thing.
Yeah. The enclosure and how it's treated.
Okay. Anita, I'd like to rely on you for the proofreading because
I volunteer.
okay. Well, I will work on this and
Chanel, might it be good to also, camera, might also be good to look at the 2014 resolution from this committee. I mean, I wasn't on this committee at that time, but of what we had said previously. I'll send it to you. I have it.
I
And
didn't hear what resolution you referenced.
The one from 2014 regarding 100 Barrow, I think some of the comments would carry over. In terms about the turnout and whatnot and the whereas, I'll circulate it to the committee.
Are you looking at it?
Hmm? Yeah.
Can you forward it to me? I looked on the website, on the community website, and
It's from January 2014. I will extract the 2 pages and
I
send
remember
them.
this whole thing was envisioned, and it was simply a concept in reviewing the entire master plan, as it were, for the.
Yes.
And I will also mention the loss of outdoor space and its presumed transfer to elsewhere in the enclosed area.
Okay.
And I do think the other thing that's important about the site is its purpose, the reason for it. It's not a landmark thing, but the reason is where it is for the very reason that it's to be open and part of the general community rather than more parochial, special interior kinds of programming.
Okay. So are we voting on this? Did we vote?
The what?
Did we take a vote?
Yes. Are we satisfied with what we've said and knowing how it'll be put together? Or all in favor?
So is it a denial? I mean, it's just not clear. Are we denying it? It's just not clear to me.
Is what?
Are we denying this applicant? Like, are we taking a vote? I mean, I know we had all the comments, but what's the vote?
I think we're denying it with all the suggestions of what needs to be
It just
done.
wasn't clear.
That would be standard for.
Yes, I know. It just wasn't. I don't think it was
Sometimes
clear.
do approve it provided that, but the preponderance for that standard is that the provided that is briefer than we've said. So denying sounds harsh, but it just fits the pattern of how much we've said we feel needs to be modified.
You want to take a vote? Is everybody in favor?
If we're ready. I want to be sure everybody's said their say. All in favor?
For the denial?
You're in favor of the resolution that recommends denial with these modifications, presumably to make it not be. We're approving a resolution, not a denial, but the resolution is to deny it as submitted.
Yes.
Yes. Agree.
One's opposed because everybody was in favor. Okay, thank you, and we'll get these, get it out as soon as we can.
Janelle, one thing, Keen has her hand raised.
I heard something, but I couldn't understand it.
Eugene, Keen has her.
Is this new business? Or are we adjourned?
I just
Not
wanted
yet,
to,
but we're
I
about-
wanted to thank you all. And, you know, again, I'm on social services and education, and I wanted just to appreciate that you let me come and to hear all this stuff. That's it. I
We
just,
thank you for lasting with us.
right. I just want you all to realize that, you know, this is obviously coming to other committees, both of which I am on.
Right. Well, thank you.
But I appreciate so much your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Keen.
Are there other things that need to be said committee-wise, unrelated to this?
We have new business? No new business?
No one has any,
No.
as it were, new business, okay. We have tomorrow we have the executive meeting, and Brian will speak about it if I'm not there. And we've reviewed what needs to be said. And also, everyone should know that this is being heard first among the resolutions or the landmarks report, both meetings, at the board meeting, so that there'll be an opportunity for those who come to hear about it to not to stay forever through.
On Thursday is what he's saying, is there's a full board meeting where this resolution from landmarks will go before the entire full board of CB2 to be voted on. And so there's a public session that's 2 minutes that's run by our first vice chair, Eugene Yu. As you can see, he does a really great job here. He will do a great job on Thursday. And thank you, Eugene. And so if you are interested in coming to speak at that on Zoom or in person, the details are on the website, and there's a public speaker form that's a little bit different than the one you signed up for today. And people can sign up at the meeting to speak, but Eugene, as you know, will go through the list as is. And yeah, so that's Thursday.
And I would call attention again to the importance of addressing landmarks issues. And
So I'm going to actually say that this is the only way that an application for this, since this is an as of right building, comes to the community board. It's not formally referred for an approval. This is like a private developer that is building an as of right building. So this is the only formal channel that this application has something where we give to a city agency. There is no other approval from any other city agency for this application, because it's an as of right building, which is why we wanted to hear these comments. There were people from the Human Services Committee for CB2 that are on here. There was an update provided, a brief on this provided by the church last June, I believe, to the Human Services Committee. And a lot of those details had not changed. So there is no formal role for human services. It doesn't mean that there's just no agency that feedback would go to. So as you've heard, there are interior design plans happening. That are not the purview of this committee. The exterior facade is what we are answering to. And while we heard all of the comments this is a forum for the applicant and the public to connect on these issues. And while the jurisdiction of what's happening in there is not the purview of this committee, I hope that those that were on here from the applicant side and the design team do find a way to connect with this larger group to have a wider discussion. As I don't know, as this goes through the LPC process, how much more of the operational change can happen, but this is a forum for that. And on Thursday, it is also a forum for all of that. So I just want to reiterate that.
Thank you.
Thursday, sorry. That's all that I have.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be in touch, Anita, as soon as I get.
Great. Thanks. So we're adjourned.
Yes. We are.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the
Thank you guys
time.
for your
Sure.
Yeah, thank you all very much for your help. We really appreciate it.
Uh,
Turn off the